Hey, everybody. So we're going to be trying to do a live stream of the debate tonight. Um, we'll see how things go. Hopefully, they're not real crazy about killing streams. I don't know. This will be my first time covering the debate live, but hopefully, things go well and they don't do that. So I'll pull the debate up. I have it on now. I hear it in my ear. I don't believe you all will hear it in your ear yet. But let's see. I'll pull it up.
Trying to overturn the last election. He has suggested he would not accept the results if he won here. We're here at the National Constitution
maybe
Center.
that'll let me
I'm sure we will be
sneak
talking
by a
about the
little bit.
issues.
Hopefully,
but for the first time, you have a president
tonight.
who is talking about retribution against his enemies if he gets back in
Let them
office.
talk.
He has actually suggested
so we'll see how
military
things go.
tribunals for his enemies. Should he get back in power, this is a very different kind of election.
It is a very different kind of election. And just what you said, John, that military tribunals, I mean, there are military officers out there who served under Trump before who are worried they're going to get pulled back in court-martial. Looking at his political opponents.
Former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
His own chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who he basically accused of treason. People like that. It is a different election, and people want to hear about
obviously, I can't pause it because this is live, but, is this supposed to be non-biased reporting? Is this supposed to be non-biased coverage?
Mary, what I'm wondering
You know
is,
what I'm saying?
will Kamala Harris
y'all are sitting
make
here
that
talking
a central
about
part of her case? Will she
members of his
prosecute
own
that
party
case
are afraid
against
that
Trump, or will
he's
she
going
stick
to,
the issue?
you know what I'm saying?
Well, look, she certainly has made
in a lot of
clear
ways,
on the trail that she's not shying away from prosecuting the case against Trump. It's a central part of her
this is no different
biography
than,
as she
than the police saying,
reintroduces herself
you
to
know, with the
voters
Tariq
here.
Hill
But
situation.
really, her focus
We didn't know
tonight
we
is
were,
on seizing this moment,
we were worried
letting the
about you, or when
largest
he was trying to
audience
get up
she
when he
has
was
so far
handcuffed.
to make her
And the
case
police
and
officer
make
wouldn't
clear
let him
the split
stand up
screens.
because they claimed that he might be a flight
Rachel,
risk. But the guy
January
got
6th,
handcuffed
which
behind
we'll
his
probably
back.
hear something about here.
Crowd of people,
January
it's like
6th is
12
actually
officers.
something that Donald Trump doesn't
You know,
want to run away
so
from. He once told me
is
it was
that
one of the
reasonable,
proudest
right? Are you
moments
trying
of
to
his presidency.
establish
He's really embraced
a
it. I think a
reasonable
lot of
suspicion
Republicans
or a
after
fear of
January 6th
safety
were
or
hoping that he would create
whatever
some
by
distance between
planting
himself
these seeds,
and that date. But since then, the
poisoning
former
the well,
president
as
has
they
called
say.
those who stormed the Capitol rioters. He has vowed to pardon them.
Patriots.
And I called them patriots, excuse me. I had an opportunity to ask the former president about that recently. Take a look.
My question is on those rioters who assaulted officers.
You have to
would you pardon
what's
those
going to
people?
happen? Oh, absolutely, I would.
You
If
would
they're
pardon
innocent,
those-
If they're innocent, I would pardon them.
They've been convicted.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just well, they were convicted by a very tough system.
Yeah, so to be clear there, the former president calls them patriots. He stands by his pledge to pardon those rioters, even those who have been convicted of assaulting police officers.
So that's the lady from the
And look,
NABJ.
for all that we've discussed and all the chaos of the last several weeks in this campaign, this is essentially a tied race. Terry Moran, our senior national correspondent, has been tracking
the
polls,
National
and really
Association
more
of Black
importantly,
Journalists
Terry,
still
what's
pushing the
behind
agenda.
the
So
polls.
Absolutely, John. The whole country knows this is a close race. It's historically close in the modern history of polling. Take a look at the polling average. The 538 national polling average right there has Harris up by about 3 points. Look, that's within the margin of error, but her momentum from the last 3 weeks is basically stalling. The latest national poll underscores this very simple truth. It is close. The battleground states, take a look at this. It could hardly be any closer there. Harris leading in 5 of the battlegrounds, but very narrowly, all within the margin of error. And one thing to keep in mind tonight, nearly a third of likely voters in these polls, they're telling pollsters that they believe they need to know more about Kamala Harris. Look at that. Donald Trump is one of the most famous men in the world, one of the most famous people in the world. People know what they think about Donald Trump. Kamala Harris, there's 30%, almost 28% in that poll, who don't know enough. That's an opportunity for her, also a challenge. John, Martha?
No doubt. People know who Donald Trump is. Martha?
Okay, coming up, the opponents have been on the attack. Tonight, the candidates will now be confronted with the biggest issues online: the economy, immigration, abortion, crime, foreign policy, and more when we come back.
And I think it's important to recognize, so they just let their they just released their
ABC News, honored for excellence with
Kamala Harris
Emmy
just released her
mornings,
platform
evenings,
online,
late night, weekends, streaming 24/7, 40 Emmy nominations. Thank you for making ABC News America's #1.
But she just released her
ABC News, honored for
platform.
excellence. ABC News, honored for excellence.
And
ABC
I think
News,
the
honored
reason
for excellence
why
with 40 Emmy
they did it
nominations.
the way they
Mornings,
did it
evenings,
is
late
because
night,
this allows
weekends,
them
streaming
to.
24/7. 40 Emmy nominations.
So when they get on stage, you can't say, "Hey, I didn't release my platform," because you released.
I'm not here to replace Dad.
But you released it so close to the debate
whole again.
that it isn't reasonable that your opponent will be able to have given a thorough appraisal of or.
Joan, what are your must-haves in a man? I'm very picky about.
So let's see. A new way forward. So let's see if I can make sure I have this up to make it bigger, just so that we can see it better. But no, I don't want to subscribe or none of that. Not later, not never. So just the bullet points: cut taxes for middle-class families, make rent more affordable, and home ownership more attainable. Grow small businesses and invest in entrepreneurs. Take on bad actors and bring down costs. So this is under her build an opportunity economy and lower costs for families. Take on bad actors, bring down costs, strengthen and bring down the cost of healthcare, protect and strengthen Social Security, support American workers, innovation and workers, provide a pathway to the middle class through quality and affordable education, invest in affordable child care and long-term care, lower energy costs, and tackle the climate crisis. We have Trump's Project 225. It's weird that they have to try so hard to bring up the negatives of Trump instead of, being able to convince us of how good our care will be. But let's pick one of the bullet points in this section. So this is what she says. As Attorney General of California, Harris took on insurance companies and big pharma and got them to lower prices. As a senator, she fought Donald Trump's attempt to repeal the Affordable Care Act, and that's a joke because years ago, I want to say during the 2020 debate, I looked up if I were to get the election season, but the election was in 2019. For my wife and Tommy with two children to get the Affordable Care Act, we couldn't get it at all if I was on it because I worked. But it was something like $500 or $600 a month. And I forget all the other details, but it was like $2,000 or $3,000 deductible or something. So, I mean, the thing about getting help in this country is you have to be dirt poor. You have to be at the lowest rung. You have to be at the lowest rung of society to get any help. But it's the Vice President Harris will make affordable health care a right, not a privilege, by expanding and strengthening the Affordable Care Act and making permanent the Biden-Harris tax credit enhancements that are lowering health care premiums by an average of about $800 a year for millions of Americans. She'll build on the Biden-Harris administration's successes and bringing down the cost of life-saving prescription drugs for Medicare beneficiaries by extending the $35 cap on insulin and $2,000 cap on out-of-pocket spending for seniors and all. And I think Trump actually, they've taken credit for this $35 cap. But Trump, I think, did that. And really, you think about it, I mean, they were able to give the COVID vaccines for free. I don't know if they still are. My contention has always been, we know what insulin does. We know who it's used for. Why can't we get insulin for free? That always, aroused my conspiracy sense, my conspiracy brothers. Because you want me to be happy about $35, and when a lot of older people are living on fixed income, any extra money is a problem. Let's see, we're going to get back to the
ahead of the first presidential debate. Both nominees will define themselves tonight and lay out to voters where they stand on major issues that affect us all. Number one among them, the economy. So let's bring in our chief economics correspondent, Rebecca Jarvis from New York, with where things stand after inflation reached a 40-year high in 2022. Rebecca?
Well, Martha, Trump's key advantage coming into tonight's debate is the economy. According to the latest numbers from Pew, 55% of voters say they are very or somewhat confident in Trump to make good decisions about economic policy, compared with 45% who say that about Harris. Harris has to walk a fine line tonight between owning the Biden economy while also differentiating her path forward. Inflation, as you just mentioned, Martha, it's come way down from that peak 9% to under 3% now. Wages are going up faster than prices today. Unemployment is about $1,100 more a month today on the same goods and services as they were in January of 2021. Inflation is
I'm getting a little bit of,
but Americans are
getting a little
looking
bit of
to
static.
our next president to make the American dream achievable
will
and the
be
cost of living affordable. And
closing
that is
some
what they
tabs.
want to hear tonight from the
Just trying to
nominees.
speed
Who
up
has
some.
that plan, Martha?
Thanks so much, Rebecca. It's something I hear from voters all over the country. That's what they want to talk about. That's what they want to hear. Kamala Harris knows that she is vulnerable on this.
Yeah, and she knows that this is top of mind for so many of those voters and that she is walking this fine line, as Rebecca described. She's proud of her record with Joe Biden, the Bidenomics record, but she knows she has to build on that and make clear to voters what she would do differently, how she would make a difference in their actual wallets. It's one of the few policy areas that she's gone into the most detail of so far. She knows that she has to continue to make that argument.
And Rachel, Donald Trump has just seized on this issue again and again, over and over.
Again and again, and for good reason, because you just heard from Rebecca there. This is the single most important issue to voters, and he does have an edge on Vice President Kamala Harris in poll after poll. It's a big reason why his advisors want him to focus on the issues tonight, not the attacks.
And the other issue where he has the huge advantage is the border security, immigration. So let's bring in Maria Villarreal down at the border in El Paso, Texas. Maria.
Well, you know, John, as of right now, we have seen the encounter numbers declining since June. That is when we saw President Biden come in with that executive order, basically shutting down the border between the ports of entry. A lot of agents, a lot of law enforcement that I've been speaking with along the border, they say as of right now, things are quiet and manageable. And then you add to that the tighter asylum restrictions and then the summer heat, and things are considerably different than what we saw in places like El Paso, where we're standing right now, in comparison to what we saw last year, right? The thing about immigration is it is an unknown for most of America, and that generates a lot of fear in people, which is why this has become a very hot topic. When we saw Trump on the border in Arizona a few weeks ago, he laid out part of his plan talking about tighter restrictions and penalties as part of what he wants to do if he's elected. On the other side of it, we haven't heard much from Harris when it comes to her immigration plan, other than she would try and resurrect that border security bill that was torpedoed right now. Listen, we have talked to voters. They want facts, they want policy, they want strategy. John?
And look, Trump's been taking a hard line on this issue for a long, long time, but an even harder line this time than when he first ran.
Yeah, he is vowing mass deportations, and in a recent interview, he suggested that he would even use the National Guard. Military to target. We're talking about 15 million to 20 million people. Possibly the last government estimate was 11 million migrants, which he hasn't necessarily explained exactly how this will be carried out. But it is one of the campaign promises that he makes over and over rally, John.
Trying to adjust the video.
Kamala Harris defending her record. She, not the borders are. They call her the borders.
Trying to adjust the video so it's smaller with the two of us here.
She has to make clear to voters really what her role was here. She was not the borders are. She was never tasked with border security, as Trump has argued. She was put in charge of addressing the root causes of immigration. But it is certainly safe to say that they know this is a vulnerability.
Change it up a little bit. Give me 1 second.
For those attacks to come tonight.
Okay, another key issue: crime and safety, of course, top issue in the election. Chief Justice Pierre Thomas has been tracking this for us.
A little bit of
joining us
production,
from
right?
DC. Donald Trump has been slamming Democrats
while we're doing
Harris
filming
over the issue of violence.
Yeah, man, you went live, bro. I sent you a text message. You know,
John, here are the facts.
Yeah, see, I text other group that we all have,
dramatically in Trump's final year in office. That increase continued in the first year of the Biden administration.
Okay,
Over the past 2 years, we've seen significant decreases, sometimes double-digit decreases in violent crime. Murder so far this year is down 17% in the nation's biggest cities. But no one's jumping for joy because gun violence is a chronic epidemic in this nation, and they're always flashing symbols that are painful reminders. And just the past 7 days alone, we had a 14-year-old boy walk into a Georgia high school and allegedly kill 2 classmates and 2 teachers using an assault rifle.
Is that alleged? Is that necessary?
There's a desperate manhunt in Kentucky to find the sniper who was shooting at people driving along a busy highway. These are all impacts on the way people actually feel, John.
Yeah, whatever the
since what they did here in Michigan, you know, they arrested the daddy.
Martha,
as well.
And of course, another key issue, abortion.
That seemed like his daddy seemed like he might have deserved it though.
He very strong issue.
He bought him a gun and everything.
She's been out in front on this issue and hammering Donald Trump on this, blaming him, pointing the finger squarely at him, saying he's to blame for the tough new abortion restrictions sweeping the country. We have seen over and over again that she notes that he has bragged about appointing the Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe. She knows that,
you know, for me, man, the only issue for me,
and of course, every time that abortion access has been on the ballot since Roe was overturned, reproductive rights have won. They see this as an issue that they hope will drive voters to the polls in November, especially because Donald Trump is really struggling to define his position.
And he really has
that essentially you're offering nothing else but abortion.
He takes credit for helping to overturn Roe v. Wade, but otherwise,
about that $25,000.
He has been all over the map on this issue. But when you look at his record and what he has done, he has appointed 3 of the 5 Supreme Court justices that overturned Roe versus Wade. That cleared the way for 22 states to either ban or severely restrict access to abortion. But Trump has also said, even though this is, he believes this should be a states issue, he believes some states have gone too far. He thinks the 6-week abortion ban in Florida, for instance, his home state, has gone too far. He didn't like that abortion ban that almost
that's one of the things.
This is important for 2 reasons. As Mary mentioned, it's
that's
going to
one
be
of the
on
things that I
in a
always
number
think
of
is real
states,
crazy,
including
like
several battleground states. And this
as a
issue
descendant
has
of
won
freedmen
every
in
single
this
time,
country,
even
like,
in conservative states.
You
Second
get
reason
the
why this is
otherization
important,
of a
Donald
foreigner
Trump
with none of the
is
benefits.
losing ground when it comes to likely female
and so like
voters
you really
for
just
Vice
get it on
President
all
Kamala
ends.
Harris.
And a very, very important demographic. Coming up, both candidates hoping to make their case to voters in this critical debate.
Way louder than our
now
volume.
less than 38 minutes away.
Is it a way to bring down the volume of it? Yeah, it's just way louder than us.
Yeah, Martha Raddatz was yelling over there. But I was going through, so what I was doing too.
Who do you think they see me?
You're Joker.
So I was going over Kamala Harris's platform in the meantime.
Right.
While the
Exactly.
Can you still hear the show?
I can hear you. You now obviously this is up, so we're not hearing the
Okay, good. I was just making sure since I was by myself, I couldn't be sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're talking about what I said earlier was, you know, they talked about trying to she released her platform, I think like a couple of days ago.
Yeah, it was.
And what I was saying was the reason she did it like this was so when she got to the debate stage, Trump said, "Hey, you still don't have a platform up."
Right.
And now you've released it so close to the debate that people aren't going to have a chance to
really
thoroughly go into it.
Yep.
Right. So.
Yeah.
But talking about a $35 cap on insulin, $2,000 cap on out-of-pocket spending for seniors, and like what I was saying earlier, I think the $35 cap was Trump's idea. And I think that was a policy that he implemented and just didn't come into action until after he was out of office. But I was saying, you know, with the COVID vaccine, you got those for free. Why are we charging $35 for insulin? Why did you just hook up the manufacturers for insulin like you hooked up Pfizer, Monsanto, Moderna? You know what I'm saying? We know what people need insulin for. People have been dying.
So no, that was Biden did the 35 cap. The $35 was during the Biden administration. That's only for seniors.
Okay.
And so she's saying here that it'll be extended to all Americans instead of just seniors, because only seniors right now are getting that $35 cap limit. Her tie-breaking vote on the inflation. That's where she's gonna get hit hard. They already got the attack ads out showing her, you know, with the vote. You know what I'm saying? because that brought the inflation. You know.
As vice president, she also announced that medical debt will be removed from credit reports and help cancel $7 billion of medical debt for 3 million Americans.
That's going to get challenged. That's going to get challenged in the court because that's what happened with you know what I mean, with the student debt.
Yeah, and that's 1% of Americans either way. So, I mean, what are the ridiculous circumstances you have to be living under for that to be a benefit to you, or be able to even be useful for you in the first place? Because they're not giving it to working people; they're just not doing it. We get screwed on either end. So either this is for very rich people who don't need this, or very poor people who we wouldn't qualify for.
Well, no, there's a lot.
As vice president,
there's a lot of people with medical debt. I said there's a lot of people with medical debt.
Yeah, but I'm saying only 1% of Americans have taken benefit that they claim. 7 billion for 1 million. 1% of Americans, 3 million. And so I'm saying, like, the chances of the average working American being able to take advantage of this program, even if it was implemented, is so slim. Because just like what you were saying with the home affordability thing, like, none of us are first generation home buyers.
Right.
So this is something that either is going to help immigrants or, you know, but here it's back. So, but you know what I'm saying? It's not something that's going to help the average American.
And more than 1,000 journalists will be there too. They are here covering the big night. The Latino vote will be influential this November. Latinos are now the second largest voting bloc in the country, with more than 36 million who will be able to vote in 2024. So let's bring in Maria Elena Salinas, who is in Miami for us. Maria, you have covered 10 elections. We know both campaigns trying to appeal to Latino voters in this final stretch.
Coming in choppy.
Exactly. They are both trying very hard to get the Latino vote because it's so important, including battleground states. As of now, Kamala Harris is doing better than President Trump with Latino voters. You know, there are still 10 to 15% of Latinos that are considered
the audio is coming in clear, but the video is, you know what I'm saying,
is convinced by either one. But there's about 30%, between 25 and 30% of Latinos that have traditionally voted Republican. They continue to do so no matter who the candidate is. President Trump did improve those numbers in the last two elections, but Kamala Harris has also improved her numbers tremendously from Biden from when before he dropped out of the race, but she still has not reached the amount of support that he had in 2020. So there's an opportunity for both Biden and for both Trump and Harris to capture the Latino vote.
Yeah, Harris is doing a lot better than President Biden was with this very key demographic. We were just talking about immigration.
I'm watching it on YouTube TV at the same time.
When it comes to these voters.
Well, for Latino voters, the views on immigration have shifted than they were in the last few elections. You know, now they support a more stricter laws, a more hardline approach towards.
You think it'd be better if I streamed it from YouTube TV instead of on abcnews.com?
Promised immigration reform,
and
Latinos were attracted to that promise, but that promise never materialized.
Well, no, I was going to not YouTube TV, but YouTube, YouTube, YouTube would have it.
But they feel that it is unfair that they are getting enrolled. Many of them are getting work permits, while there are still millions of undocumented people here living in this country that are either married to U.S. citizens or have children that are U.S. born. Have been waiting for decades.
That doesn't move me. That's my point. Yeah, one of the guys that I know, man, he's married to a Hispanic lady, and so
Rachel,
me and him
we met up a couple Fridays ago. And your insights. Thank you so much for joining us.
You know what I'm saying?
All right, we are less than 30 minutes away.
Out of deference, I didn't say anything, but I'm thinking to myself, like, bro, that's not my concern. About them getting round up, bro. Like, you know, like,
yeah, I mean, if you're here illegally,
if
you're here illegally,
Hey, good morning, America. Good morning, America.
Good morning, America.
Are you ready?
No.
Covering the biggest events in the country right now. There's a lot going on here.
You don't just see it, you feel it.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in too.
I am here and so happy.
I'm in.
I'm in too.
Michael, George, Clara, Ginger.
What's wrong?
Restaurant bread.
But yeah, they're trying to pull on heartstrings, and I mean, I have a level of humanity, but that don't move me either. I got my fan on now. Let me know if it's coming in kind of like cloudy or whatever.
I can't hear it
This
at all.
is ABC News Live.
The crushing
I don't hear
families
anything.
here in Poland.
At refugee centers
In Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine.
Okay, thanks.
To the front line. From the
So I'm back to the information from her campaign about I'm back to the information with her. Yeah. So back to that again. It says, and Vice President Harris has led the administration's effort to combat maternal mortality. Women nationwide are dying from childbirth at higher rates than any other developed nation. The president called on states to extend Medicaid postpartum coverage from 2 months to 12. Today, 46 states do so, up from just 3 near the administration's start. And I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with just the way our healthcare is predatory. And so, you know, the medical system is looking at it as a transaction and not actually offering care. You know what I'm saying? But what are your thoughts as far as that specific bullet point of her agenda on building an opportunity economy and lower costs for families?
Yeah, man, I don't see it really like being anything. Like I said, for sure, if they try to get rid of the medical debt, just like how they tried to do it, you know, erase the student debt, and it was challenged in the court, and then went up to the Supreme with this current Supreme Court, you know, because the medical companies are going to fight against that, you know, or that own the debt, that have the debt, you know, owed to them, I guess, and that was you know, they couldn't do that. So I see that being challenged and it, you know, being an empty promise. And so let me see here. They said Medicaid postpartum coverage. Yeah, there's only very few people, you know, you have to be really like dirt poor to even qualify for Medicaid, to be honest with you. So
right, and that's what I'm saying. That's
like,
what I'm saying. You know, even with the medical debt forgiveness, the chances that it's going to help the average working American is so slim that even if it's a nice gesture on paper, like it doesn't 3%. I mean, 1% is nothing. Right. That's literally, now, you know, it could be the world to these people who receive that benefit, but in real terms, that's nothing. 1%.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to scroll down specifically. She got a civil rights section.
Okay.
So this is a safeguard our fundamental freedoms, restore and protect reproductive freedoms, protect civil rights and freedoms. In short, so here, let's see, they just came back, so I'll bring it back.
Well, so they have Project 2025 listed on her platform.
But they keep bringing up bullet points of Project 2025, even though like that's not her. You know what I'm saying? Like that's weird to me that you want so much to try to bring Trump into it, to juxtapose how bad he is versus how good you are.
Longtime advisor for Israeli
Without
Prime Minister
bringing in your own
Netanyahu told me
policies.
that he's going to be watching very closely for what former President Trump has to say about Iran. He said for Netanyahu, both Harris and Trump are known quantities, but the advisor telling me that for Netanyahu, a Trump presidency would be a dream come true, especially because
I'm voting green, man.
Trump has
you know,
been, Netanyahu has been under.
And maybe we should do a show about
that he's been dragging his feet.
maybe do a show about Green Party policy,
mounting even further after the release of that video.
They have a reparations platform that is far more reasonable, although still insufficient.
If you ask Israelis,
have a reparations platform, an anti-war platform
they're likely to say
that I align myself with more.
Has been doing the past several months, despite massive efforts. They've promised that a deal is around.
Even though they call out, Israel for the
easier of a sell for
Palestine
crisis like this, but he's
genocide going on. I think
he said in the past that if he were president,
they still say something something like Israel.
If he were president, he would have been.
Not Israel has a right to defend itself because it's like what they all say, but it's something like that. Where I take the approach that
the lives of many
like,
Palestinians,
where Israel has a right to exist, but not necessarily where it is.
About that
like give them land in Germany,
so
that's the case, or
Ukraine
give them land in Poland. Like
that's
you know what I'm saying.
You
can't kick people off their land because you claim you have some ancestral connection to it. Unverifiable.
Yeah, right. I mean,
right. Who did you dirty?
Right.
Was all in Germany.
Right. In theory, you know what I'm saying? You know, that would be like us saying we got an ancestral right to some place in Africa. You know, and we just kick people that are living there off and we just take over, Nigeria or something like that, or kind of Faso or Cameroon, or you know what I mean? Just be like, yeah,
into Russia, apartment block here.
And that was more closer in real time than anything the alleged European Jews have to Palestine, you know what I mean? So
they've been given
restrictions on weapons it's all a farce by the United States. And it's an apartheid government, you know what I mean? Like
restrictions are going to be lifted. U.S. Secretary of State.
They say they, have the right to be a Jewish state, like an ethno state. You know what I mean? And what is that about?
To Russia. So those are going to be used in the coming weeks. He describes this also
that's that's a problem. It's just a problem. But have Germany give up portions of their land specifically set aside for the Jewish people. And you call that fair, but you don't get to go, and say, hey, we have, like I said, we have an ancestral connection to this land. That
key issue tonight, former President Trump,
it's terrible,
slamming the Biden administration for that
terrible situation.
All the way
and then they,
hey, look,
they completely
bluntly, it was a
don't even, the two-state solution
for the Biden presidency. It might be the darkest.
Isn't a solution? You know what I'm saying? That's how they obviously with the settlements. They invaded West Bank. You know what I mean? They're expanding the war to West Bank.
Right.
It's obvious that they're kick these people out completely. So
right. 13 service members who died.
Well, I was going to say just because you brought that up, expanding to the West Bank should put to bed any idea that Israel or Netanyahu government or whatever is actually trying to legitimately come to an agreement that does not involve completely eradicating these people. Right. The West Bank had nothing to even do with this.
Right.
Joe Biden was also at the time
saying it's well known that that's their goal is, you know what I'm saying,
it's hard to play that down.
Israel,
if you're the president, it's hard to
all the way out.
Success. And Mary, let's go back to
people, going 100%. And that's why they're doing the genocide. To kill as many as they can.
A very fine line, and this
pressure most of them to leave,
she is taking
or you know what I'm saying, make the conditions so well beyond livable that maybe one of the Arab states will house them more than what they already do. So it's just a real sad situation, man. At the end of the day,
no question on this issue. She is
the whole onus of why October 7th even occurred was the fact that Israel and Saudi Arabia were about to, become diplomatic partners, more so than they already are now.
So coming up, Senator
Tom
Cotton
and that's why Hamas forced their hand if they did. That's why they attacked when they attacked. Was to to make that Saudi go through that just undesirable, right? So that's some of the political background. Why October 7th. I mean, as well as they've been,
life
all
doesn't
the years
wait
of
for you to get
occupation
paid.
or what have you. But that why attack then? That was the background that was occurring.
Yeah. I mean, so I agree with you. I think if Dr. West maybe had a more, because I think I was still willing to vote for him. Yeah. He is on the ballots here in Michigan, but I feel like the Green Party has a more well-established platform and infrastructure that I think makes it more of an easy choice for me.
Yeah. But
since you brought that up, like all of the points that she brings up has some link to the Agenda 2024. Right. Like everyone.
Right.
So this one is safeguard our fundamental freedom. So protect civil rights and freedom. So I'm like, well, is that for black people? and it's not. It's not. It says Vice President Harris and Governor Walz believe many fundamental freedoms are at stake in this election. They will fight to ensure that Americans have the opportunity to participate in our democracy by passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Acts, laws that will enshrine voting rights protections, expand vote by mail and early voting, and more. I don't like that. Her administration will also continue to protect American nation, building on her work to secure $2 billion in funding for offices of civil rights across the federal government. And as president, she'll always defend the freedom to love who you love openly and with pride. In 2004, she officiated some of the nation's first same-sex marriages, and as Attorney General, she refused to defend California's anti-marriage equality statewide referendum. As president, she'll fight to pass the Equality Act to enshrine anti-discrimination protections for LGBTQI plus Americans in healthcare, housing, education, and more into law. So your black agenda is John Lewis Voting Rights Act, but you have to parse that out by knowing that John Lewis was black. And the gay agenda or the gay rights
is ponied up with that, tied in with it.
Well, yeah, but it's enumerated. You know what I'm saying? In so many words, it's not enumerated, but it's made. You know what I'm saying? You're not having to figure it out. It's stated plainly.
Right.
And even here when it says she refused to defend California's anti-marriage equality statewide referendum. She defended California's constitutionally overcrowded prisons. She didn't use her discretion as Attorney General to refuse to argue that. And that's one of the things I heard people say, well, she was Attorney General, even though she might have felt this way, she had to do what she did because that was her job. But here we see that she did have discretion not to fight it.
And in fact,
so she actively fought to keep prisoners in overcrowded prisons in California because she said it would be an undue burden on the state's budget.
Right, to release them because of the fact that they were essential in carrying out the duties of upkeep of the prison and probably other things that they get used for. As well, and also you notice there was no George Floyd. You know what I'm saying? The George Floyd bills, right? You know him well. That died in Congress. There was no mention of George Floyd.
Kamala Harris is going to be the Donald Trump that's
at all. She's trying to. They're trying to make sure they keep themselves away from anything having to do with George Floyd and the 2020 protest.
Right.
Clear record. This campaign is unusual.
We don't have a candidate
she fought against
for
the first time.
Police
American
officers
people remember what it was like under President Trump. We had stable prices, rising wages, a secure border,
the police union
peaceful, stable relations around the world. Under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, we've had record high inflation. We've had a wide open border.
Say it one more time.
Breaking out everywhere.
I said
the
she
American
fought
people
against.
are going to remember after
She
tonight.
literally fought
the time
against
for good under Donald Trump.
She fought
they
against
want another 4 years of President Trump back in the White
police
House.
officers having webcams.
We noticed he was spending a lot of time looking at the angles.
I'm sorry.
The Mike Trice Richardson situation.
Know the television of this as well.
She fought against police officers having body cams.
Well, he does,
were against
I
it at
think
that point in
the
time.
style
Obviously,
and
this
the
is
debate stage
George Floyd,
and
right?
the lighting and all that is going to be secondary in the minds of most voters, especially those trying to make up their minds.
I mean,
what they hear from the two candidates about their
I just
record.
feel like
people remember that with
people
Donald
who take
Trump,
her
they had
seriously,
good times. They had rising wages. They had stable prices.
And I mean, and when I say take her seriously, not that she's not seriously running for president,
and Joe Biden
but who take her at her word, who legitimately try to
I think it's going to be a clear contrast
convince others
between President
that
Trump
what
and
she
Kamala
said
Harris tonight and the American people starting tonight and over the next 8 weeks are going to make
I've gotten to the point where it's hard for me
back in the White House.
Continue to entertain conversations like that. It's just for me, it's a waste of energy. And I'd rather, in most cases, just present the information as I can and not have to deal with that. Because I feel like I said it's a waste of my time and energy.
As you've seen the polling, a large slice of voters say they simply don't know enough about the vice president. Is this her last best chance to reach out to those critical voters, show them who she really is, what she stands for?
That's the thing. We don't know because she always flip-flops all the time. Depends on who she's talking to.
Right.
She was against fracking. Now she's for it.
I think under
You know,
Kamala
she
Harris,
was for
you're
Medicaid for
going
all,
to see someone who's compassionate, who
or
cares
Medicare
deeply
for all.
about
Now
the
she's,
welfare
you know,
of
she's
all
against it.
Americans, no matter what they look like, where they come
She was
from, who they
she
love,
was
who they pray to.
anti-fracking.
An
Now she's
economic
pro-fracking,
message that lifts people up instead of shutting out the middle class.
and
I
that's
expect you'll
know
see Kamala Harris speak not only about her strong track record,
I
but her strong vision for the nation, and prosecute the case effectively against
I
Donald
feel
Trump
like
tonight.
they
You mentioned the
backfired
case against Trump. What about Joe Biden?
because
How
the
does she go
situation
about
is going to be
building off
one
of
in
their
which
record, but making clear to voters who are concerned that she won't just be Biden's
you haven't given yourself enough time to really show the
Well,
majority
serving
of
as Joe
voters
Biden's vice
that
president
you are
made
worth
her
voting
fit
for,
and ready to serve
and all
on
the
day
sycophants
one.
you
I think it's
have,
important that we
and the
examine Kamala Harris's
people who are
positions,
just going to
her
support you
vision, the
because you're
things
black
she wants
or
to
quote
do
unquote
for
black.
this nation. Elections are about
There's
the
not going to be enough
future.
of those people to swing the election for her legitimately. Like I
To the
think
dangerous vision of the future that Donald
you
Trump
know I
has.
think that'll be
One of
inconsequential.
less freedom and more
Because like when you
chaos
drive around
under
the
Donald
city and
Trump.
I see
We'll
some
see how it
Harris
unfolds on the debate
signs,
stage, Governor Shapiro.
I
Thank
see
you so
some
much.
Trump signs, but I feel like
to
when you
surrogates
don't
from
see a
both
yard
campaigns.
with either
Coming up,
sign.
we're going to talk to somebody who has both
My wife was saying
debated
that she
Donald
thinks those are Trump
and helped him
supporters.
prepare
I don't
for
have
the
one of the
debates.
signs in my
That
yard
showdown
because I
less
think
than
they're both full of
14
it.
minutes away.
You know, we just talked about the Green Party, so. But I just feel like that is probably more accurate for the average voter.
Right.
That if you don't have a Harris sign in your yard, you're probably a Trump supporter. And a
Why
lot
has
of people just
America
don't want that
accepted the
smoke.
wait for payback?
Exactly. They don't want to declare it. Yeah.
When
Or you
life doesn't
apathetic
wait
at all.
for
You voting for the couch. You're not gonna come out. Period. You know?
Yeah.
That's probably more likely the case than anything. Is that, you know what I'm saying? People, you know, it's one thing to say you're gonna vote for somebody or not. There's another thing to get up and actually get, you know what I'm saying, go out and actually, you know what I'm saying, show up. And that's, I think, you know, it's going to be truthfully a very low voter turnout in the city. I don't think it's going to be a large turnout at all. You know what I'm saying? And in order to, for sure, she's going to lose Michigan. You know what I'm saying? The Arab community is,
I think so too.
That's a block of 250, 300,000 voters on the regular election cycle, presidential election cycle. I believe a lot of them are going to either vote Green Party or may go, you know what I'm saying, or completely sit out or even go Trump, you know, just to stick it to the Democrats or not come out at all. You lose Dearborn, you lose Detroit, you lost Michigan. You know what I'm saying? Point blank. You've lost Michigan.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because the rest of the state is rural and it's going to go vote red. Only the Grand Rapids and the Detroit metropolitan area, Oakland, I believe Oakland County is, you know, pretty blue. But Macomb has always been historically, you know what I'm saying, working class. The Reagan Democrats, you know what I'm saying, or that, you know, I think, you know, the UAW, the leadership is going behind Harris, but the rank and file are probably more Trump than anything. So so yeah, she might get, you know, Washington County, you know, with Ypsi and Ann Arbor, you know what I'm saying?
Well, you know, but I even thought in that situation, you might have more people there going Green Party. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, more left people.
Because even
college
those college
yeah.
Yep. I was thinking what is Michigan State in Ingham County. I feel like you could have a lot of those kids going to the Green Party too, just because they are apathetic to the two-party system and they understand that either vote for either candidate is essentially a vote for genocide.
Right.
It's a vote for the status quo. And nothing's going to improve. So they're not going to waste their time. I legitimately think that those are what you said. Everything you laid out is a legitimate possibility.
Yep.
And I think because she has been so hidden, I think there's a level of vulnerability that displays to the wider voting populace.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you've seen it. I'm sure you have, but you've seen the clips of Don Lemon when he's interviewing people.
Yes. Yeah.
He's in like Cleveland. He's in, I think, Atlantic City and a couple other places. I think he's in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and he's interviewing Black people.
Right.
Not exclusively, but they're like, you know, I'm voting for Trump. I support Trump. And it's just, and there's a certain level of sadness that I feel in that situation because we essentially are bouncing from bad to worse or a rock in a hard place, whatever you want to, however you want to look at it. But like, this still is an expression of how these people legitimately feel. You know what I'm saying? This is how they feel. It's how they feel about the state of the country. I mean, they believe that Trump will legitimately be able to make some positive changes. I disagree. I think, the economy was good because it was just that cycle. And I think, Trump won't be able to duplicate or replicate anything. I think the economy was tanked artificially due to lockdown, things like that. But I don't think there's going to be a policy that he can implement to bring it back.
Same thing they've studied. They're going to go out.
Yeah, do I. But it was, to add to what you were saying about the Don Lemon interview, street interviews. I saw something recently where was a guy, ex-convict, ex-con, but he was at a
several times.
Palestine,
he says he doesn't compare, but he actually
protest.
Does. Bring us
into
that.
And they asked him, like, was he going to vote for Harris? He was like, oh no, definitely not.
At this point,
and he talked about how she liked the black man in Cali
because you just have to sit there and wait.
So he's like, who you going to vote for? He's like, I'm going to vote for Trump. He's like, well, you are protesting. He's like, Trump is no friend of the Palestinians. You know what I'm saying? It may even get worse. You know what I mean? With his links to Israel and Netanyahu. And he still didn't care, bro. He was like, he hated Harris so much. He was like, he hated Harris so much, bro. And he talked about some of the, things that Trump had did as far as freeing people. You know what I mean?
I think at the beginning of the debate,
he didn't care. Like, it was kind of like
Donald Trump.
Crazy. Like, well, okay, you care about Palestine so much. Why would you,
first
debate but he doesn't, you know what I'm saying? He doesn't know about another option, you know what I'm saying? Like the Green Party. Yeah. A lot of people think voting for third parties is just a waste of a vote anyway. And it's not a waste of a vote. But nonetheless, man, people just caught up in that duopoly, at the base level. People caught up in the duopoly.
Vice President Harris makes in his direction.
Really don't, really
that'll be the key.
Understand is that you keep voting in the duopoly, you're ensuring that the duopoly can exist.
2016.
You know what I'm saying? At some point, if enough people start voting for third parties, then those third parties can gain traction and get enough seats in local and state elections and even federal elections as well. You got to break out of it, even though you might not be successful in the couple, 2 or 3 campaign cycles. If you continue to vote for the duopoly, it's not going to change because we know that you're stuck. We know you're stuck, you know what I'm saying? Either way. That's the only way to get out of it, man, is just to not participate.
Not to be taken lightly.
But not sit on the couch, but to vote for the option that you know what I'm saying, that is out there that you
in 2020
that you believe in.
Clearly, during the prep session,
that's the only way to get out.
It was very, very difficult to get.
I think I saw that video. I think Due Dissidence posted a clip
in that first debate
that you're talking about. But I think what he said is not necessarily that he hated the Democrat. I mean, he hated Harris so much.
What he's saying publicly,
but it was that he hated the Democratic Party so much that he was willing to make that concession.
But I will tell you that
in the short term, I mean, it was kind of articulate in its own way. I still agree it was a little short-sighted.
He was completely unserious.
But I feel like in that instance,
Joe Biden,
and I feel this way a lot of times, but I just, I still have my hangups about
that approach,
voting for Republicans, because I
just,
you'll
be watching with us.
I know that
Martha?
And we have
they're
about
still,
6 minutes
as a collective,
before the debate, so let's bring
not aligned with my worldview. You know what I'm saying? Like, they might have some things that I can agree with them on now, especially because things seem to be going very extreme one way as it pertains to some of the gender stuff and even some of the abortion stuff.
So how does she do this?
But like,
it's quite easy.
George Bush.
Because I do believe that in talking about
I remember George Bush. I remember Dick Cheney. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember the Patriot Act, and I remember, I was born at the tail end of Reagan, but like, I read about Reagan. I looked at what kind of stuff Reagan did. So like, you guys are not an option for me. You guys still hold Reagan in high regard. And so like, no, man, my brain still works. Like, I'm not so
But here's what I think we can do together over the next.
I'm not
4 years.
so
Be positive in her approach. And
I'm not
really
so
remind the American people that we don't
disgruntled
want to go back to the chaos
with
and the confusion,
the Democratic Party that I'm
made,
supporting people
of
who
course,
like
the American
Ronald
people
Reagan.
go out in
Like,
droves
no,
in
bro,
2020
exactly.
to
that's
fire
not
the
the
former
move.
president.
Union
I want a
busting,
president that lead all
divesting,
Americans. I want to keep a strong
war on
and
drugs. You
here's
know
the
what I'm
plan.
saying?
Yes.
You know, I mean, because of the Reagan era, it caused the Democrats to push more to the right. That's how we get Clinton and all this stuff that he did with NAFTA.
Yeah, that third way.
Crime with the crime bill and, you know, Biden with all his crime bills and, you know what I'm saying, and all the stuff, you know, that they did, getting rid of the Glass-Steagall Act and so on. But yeah, bro, I remember Reagan because of that when I was, obviously I was born in '79, so I was born on the tail end of, you know, the Iran issue, the hostage situation. Right. And Iran-Contra happened, and, you know what I'm saying, the flooding the drugs into our communities, all of that, you know what I'm saying? The 80s, bro, like, you know what I'm saying? I was like, probably about 5 and 84, you know what I mean? Like, Reagan was terrible, bro. Terrible, man. Terrible. And
I believe.
and then obviously you had George Bush Sr.
Do you think we'll see tonight? Can he be disciplined about talking about
you know,
policies and
then
what kind
came
of
in Clinton, you know what I'm saying? Or what have you. So
well, he certainly can be. I mean,
this
the
year
reality
or
is
whatever.
Donald
And
Trump
that Clinton was
doesn't have
great
a lot
for the emotional standpoint. Well, you know what I mean? Because, you know, these people used to say Clinton was the first black president, you know, because he played the saxophone, and, you know what I'm saying, and this and that, and yeah, you know, affairs in the office or whatever, you know, in the White House. But when you look back at, you know, his policies and how it really damaged the middle class and black people as a whole, you know, the welfare reform act, all of that was coming on the back of
what her role was in
Reagan Bush.
Afghanistan. So really,
and the Democrats, you know, being turning away from, you know, the working class, you know what I'm saying, to try to, you know, make themselves corporate and make themselves more aligned with white America and suburban America. And they fled all of their values, you know what I'm saying?
Well, one of the things he wants
Budak,
to do
you know,
is have female voters.
then we get Bush Jr., you know, because of the, you know, all this crazy
female
stuff that
voters
Clinton
after
did,
saying
right?
things about Kamala Harris.
You know, overthrowing of Haiti and all of that happened on Clinton's watch, right? You know, it's just, yeah, man, the Clintons brought in Bush, and the Bush brought in, Barack Obama, because I don't think we would have had a Barack Obama if it wasn't for the Bush years and all that crazy stuff that happened on the Bush watch. And we wouldn't have Trump if we didn't have an Obama, man. You know what I mean? And that's pretty much, you know,
Trump is winning
the thorough line, you know, going
inflation and all these other problems that we're having.
I agree. I think they definitely have all fed into each other.
Past positions, current positions.
And so,
how does she feel about how Biden has done on the economy?
Yeah, I
how
mean,
does she feel about the border? Well,
even like what you said about the drugs, we did that on the Freeman Collective. We did that,
joining us tonight, Donna
discussing the ways the drugs were flooded into the black community in a specific way. You know how they were brought up and given in San Francisco and distributed out from San Francisco throughout the rest of the state of California, how the drugs were smuggled in.
And Harris said, if you got
and so, like,
the question tonight,
yeah, like, it isn't a situation where you can tell me that the Republicans are, even the situation with Tyreek Hill.
This is the largest audience they're likely going to have.
I read an article on Fox News
about Harris can make clear the stark choice before voters.
And so, you know, sometimes because I'm a glutton for punishment, I went and read the comments on the Fox News article. And like,
for the first time,
they were talking about in the comments. Some people were saying, you know, he should have just complied or whatever.
Side to side
And
together.
And I have my doubts that we're going to see that handshake.
Let's see. We got a comment that says, any party, Democrat or Republican, have any significant signs that they will help the Black American people?
Almost certainly going to be the last one. So with
the
stakes so
not
high,
significant.
the presidential debate just moments away.
Even when you look at the First Step Act, which you know they like to try to talk about a lot, while that may be nice in response to you know, the police state, the carceral state that we live under, it still pigeonholes Black people into the position of criminals or felons and convicts. You know what I'm saying? It does nothing for those of us who've managed to stay out of prison.
Tonight,
right?
The high-stakes showdown here in Philadelphia between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Their first face-to-face meeting in this presidential election.
I'm gonna
Their
edit this
first
to move it
face-to-face
over a little
meeting
bit.
ever.
A historic race for president upended just weeks ago. President Biden withdrawing after his last debate. Donald Trump now up against a
They
new
keep saying
opponent.
withdrawn like he didn't
Separated
get
by the
forced out.
smallest of margins, essentially tied in the polls nationally, and in the key battlegrounds,
They forced this
including
dude
right
out.
here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play. The ABC News presidential debate starts right now.
This is an
But yeah,
ABC
no, there's no
special
significant
for the most
policy. The
consequential
Democrats
moment
offer
of this
nothing
campaign.
because they
Kamala
think our
Harris.
vote is in the bag, and the Republicans still they appeal to the low hanging fruit in order to try to act like they're doing something for us in response. But like I was saying with the Tyreek Hill situation, reading those comments, you see all the white people. Yeah, he should have just complied, and it's like, bro. You don't have to roll your window all the way down for
Good
police.
evening,
That's
I'm
not a
David
law.
Dorn. Thank you for
You know
joining
what
us
I'm
for
saying?
tonight's ABC News.
All you have to do is
presidential
present your
debate. We want
ID,
to
which you
welcome
did,
viewers watching on ABC
and your registration and your
around the
insurance.
world tonight.
That's
Vice
it.
President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
And
are
he
just
initially
moments
did
away
roll his
from
window
taking the
down.
stage in this unprecedented race for president.
Man.
And
But anyway,
Lindsay
it's
Davis,
about to
tonight's
kick
meeting
off,
could
bro.
be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less
You
than
want to
2
make the
months
screen bigger
away.
now?
For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions
I
have been
forget
shared
her
with
name,
the
but she
campaign.
almost looked like
The
Kamala
candidates
Harris,
will have
don't
2
she?
minutes
Like they
to
just
answer
went to the
questions.
same
This is
hairdresser
the
and
clock.
clothier.
That's what they'll be
Yeah,
seeing. 2 minutes
pantsuit.
for rebuttals and 1 minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or responses. Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss.
I wonder why they did it that way. Oh, it's freezing.
Selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Why did they have it with no audience? That must have been because.
That was
Oh yeah,
rude.
the height thing.
Let's have a good debate.
Oh, come on now.
Yeah, bro, you way behind.
It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirited.
You want to do the stream from yours? You want
So
to?
let's get
You
started.
want to? You want
I
to share the
wanna
link
begin
from
tonight with
yours?
The issue that voters repeatedly say is their number
yeah,
one
we
issue,
can.
and that is the economy and the cost of living.
I don't
in
know.
this country.
Actually, I don't think I have.
Vice
No, I don't.
President Harris, you and
I
President
can't
Trump
put
were
words
elected
to
4
it,
years
man.
ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight
Yeah, I can share it with
often
you.
asks
Present.
his supporters,
Okay.
are you
If
better
you,
off than you were
if you
4 years
do it,
ago?
I can.
When it comes to the
I'll put you
economy,
up.
do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I
But I'm
was
far ahead.
raised as a middle class kid.
Okay.
And I am actually
That's the
the
thing.
only
She's gonna
person
she's
on
way
the
into
stage
her
who has a plan
monologue.
that is about lifting
So
up
you
the
sure you
middle
want me to
class
do that?
working
Because
people of
it'll.
America. I believe
No, we'll
in
stay
the
where we are now.
ambition,
Okay,
the
yeah.
aspirations,
We can
the
change it at
dreams
the
of
commercial
American
break.
people.
Okay.
Depending
And
on
that
how
is
long it
why
is.
I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing. And the
Ooh,
cost
she
of
don't look
housing is
good.
too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you
This
rely
don't
on
look
to
good.
get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000
up?
more a year because of his policies
Conservative
and
Brother
his
Daly
ideas
joining us in here.
about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
You're calling it tariff or sales tax. That's the crazy. That's a Republican tactic.
We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years,
hey, I'm in.
What we've done for the world.
Hey,
the
welcome.
tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left.
She whiz.
Which is really known as
You're gonna get a couple of flags.
Countries. We have inflation like
Hope
very
not.
few people have ever seen before. Probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%.
No, a
but
bunch
that's
of people are streaming this.
60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking
Oh my goodness.
and Hispanics and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment.
He seems, I mean, just optically, he's really giving her a hard time. This stream, but
on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some idea.
this is madness.
Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died. Has there been anything like it? We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and
I just
the
got to
best
interrupt
economists
because
in our
we're not going to
country,
really have a
if
good
not the
time
world,
to
have
do
reviewed
that.
our
But
relative plans
she just
for the
doesn't look
future of
good.
America.
Like, you know, she doesn't look comfortable. Her stage presence isn't there. Her message is
Plan
not
would
clear.
make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. I gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes.
Run, spot, run.
And I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The vice president brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs as
yeah, that's BS, man. Like I said, that's a classic Republican tactic.
Yeah,
call tariffs a freaking sales tax.
As you know,
and if you don't buy that good,
right, then passed on to the consumer. President
That's what I'm
Harris has
saying,
argued
bro.
it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication.
The Democrats and the Republicans have, I won't say they switched places, but they've just moved further to the right.
Right.
They share talking points.
Can afford higher prices because of tariffs.
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else.
That's not a lie.
Of our country
I went to the store today.
Absolutely dying.
Man, just terrible.
Paul, the polls say 80 and 85 and even 90%.
Sheesh. I don't know why it's moving so slowly, but it is.
Respond.
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's work.
They changed the definition of recession. That is a fact. They changed the definition of recession.
In terms of workers'
under the Biden administration.
But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point.
That's funny. She might. This is Democrat playbook. They run to the left or to the right of Republicans. They don't offer you a legitimate alternative.
They bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change.
There you go.
There you go.
Oh, he cooking now. He cooking.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the stream is.
And he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade last year.
Her facial expressions, man, she should try to
pro-life president in America.
keep that to a minimum. You know, it's like Trump ain't even looking at her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. She keeps trying to get some kind of response out of him, and I think that's going to backfire because you look needy.
Because you initially had said that it was too short, and you said, "quote I'm."
And she's trying to do the whole smirk and like shake her head. I mean,
it's not
you
working.
dropped some truth.
To support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times.
I'm so tired of this crap, bro.
So the reason I'm doing that
so
vote is
tired.
because
They've been talking
the
this
plan is,
since
as
the
you know, the
90s,
vote
dog.
is
I'm so tired of
they
it.
have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before. He said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical.
I think
the
he means
Democrats
Virginia.
are radical in that. The way for our country. Because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential
it's probably your
pick,
internet, dude. I'm gonna be honest
in the
with
9th
you.
month is absolutely fine.
Yeah, whoever
He
you use it
also
for your
says
internet, man.
execution after
It's
birth.
rolling smooth on
Execution,
my
no
side.
longer abortion, because the baby is born is
Yeah, I gotta
okay.
get Comcast
And that's
business.
not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52
Who's your
years.
provider
they've been
now?
trying to get Roe v. Wade into the
T-Mobile.
states. And through
Yeah, that's
the
you're using. Yeah, you're using
genius and
cell
heart
phone
and
internet.
strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every
And while it's paused, I have to agree. I mean, like you talked about, Jay,
happened. Now,
Gerard,
Ohio,
they used the
vote was
14th
somewhat
Amendment was
Kansas,
equal
the
protection
vote was somewhat
in order
liberal,
to
much more liberal
establish
than people would
Roe
have
v.
thought.
Wade,
But
which
each
was just
individual state
foundationally
is
unsound.
voting. It's the vote of the
Completely.
people now. It's not tied up in the
Completely,
federal
bro.
government. I did a great
That and
service
the
in
Fourth
doing it. It
Amendment,
took courage
like
to
the
do it.
privacy.
And
It
the
was-
Supreme Court had great courage in doing
But
it.
anyway.
And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is
I'm tired of this tough subject, dog. I swear to God.
Well, yeah,
I am so
because
tired
that
of
can't
it.
be the only.
response to President
That can't be the
Well,
only
as
thing
I
you
said, you're gonna
offering
hear
in
a
the
bunch of
form.
lies,
Here.
and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald
Are they
Trump
doing commercial breaks or
hand-selected
there's just
3
like
members of
straight
the United
debate?
States
Oh, they're
Supreme
gonna have to
Court
do a
with the
commercial.
intention
Yeah, I
that they
believe
would
they're having
undo the
commercials.
protections
All
of
right,
Roe
I
v.
got a
Wade.
couple things I want to
And
say
they did
on the
exactly
commercial. I
as
don't
he
want to
intended. And
miss
now
too
in
much, but
over
I got a couple
20
thoughts
states, there
coming
are
up.
Trump
Oh, yeah.
abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life.
Get
Trump
out of
abortion
here.
bans that make no exception even for
Well,
rape
yeah, I
and
mean,
incest.
it's like
which
that with
understand
weed.
what that means. A survivor
You
of
can
a
go to Michigan and
crime
smoke
of
weed and be
violation
fine, and go to
to their
Florida
body
or
does
Alabama
not
or
have the
somewhere
right
and
to
get
make a
hemmed up. It's
decision
the
about what
same.
happens to
That's
their
the federal
body
part of
next.
this
That is
country.
immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government and Donald Trump certainly should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
I hate that they try to portray women as
around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted?
That same pregnant woman ain't got a choice whether to take the COVID vaccine or not.
Right.
My body, my choice.
Exactly.
Right?
I think he's gonna come back. I think that's gonna be the standard. That's the standard rule. Why?
Are afraid they might go to jail,
Mandated
and she's
vaccines.
bleeding out
You
in a
gotta
car
do
in the
that.
parking lot.
Yeah, I'm trying not to talk during the debate, but with Kamala, I just can't help
12
but
or
cut in.
13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They
That's
don't
less
want
than 1% of all abortions.
And I pledge
That's
to
half
you,
of 1%.
when Congress
Half
passes
of
a bill
1%.
Supports
to put
exceptions.
back
So this is
in place the
irrelevant.
protections
If
of
you're
Roe
trying
v.
to
Wade,
literally
as president of the United States, I will
direct his
proudly
policy after he's
sign it
on stage telling you
into
this is
law.
not what I
But
believe.
understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his project
The same talking point. That's not
because you don't have
that
anything
would
to
be
offer.
monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms,
Wow.
in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body,
He has not looked at her one time though, and I think that is working in his benefit because she looks needy. She looks like she's fighting for his gaze. Where he's like, "Look, I'm over here."
I don't even. You don't even deserve.
Because we've gotten what everybody wanted: Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else. And every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states. And the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart. And they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well,
to
I
your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even.
We might have to use yours.
And it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then
If we do,
I
it's
think
going
probably
it's
her boss.
where I'm at
all
is
the
ahead of
boss, he
where
spends all
you're
his
at.
time on the beach.
Yeah.
But look,
Right. Well, let's just wait until the commercial break, and then we'll just.
got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea, and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free, but they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that.
That's why I was saying that part of
JD
her bill.
Vance has said that you would veto if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with JD. In all fairness, JD, and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me. But I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it. Just like she couldn't get student loans, they couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They
Exactly.
taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. So wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for
I think her
years they
composure
wanted to
is
get it
completely
out of
gone.
Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman?
Of Roe v. Wade, and as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not
I don't know.
happening.
It's
insulting
I don't know. I
to
heard
the
or
women of
read
America.
somewhere, like
and
in New
understand
York or
what
something,
has been happening
or
under
California,
Donald
but
Trump's
maybe that was
abortion bans.
propaganda.
Couples who pray and dream.
No, that has happened. I got some receipts on that.
What I was saying, I feel like I heard of a story where a woman did that.
Multiple far left.
Women
You know,
who are
I'll get
working
into
one
it.
or two jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and
What?
get the health care she
That's
needs.
that's
on her.
Can't
Move
afford to
to
do
a
it,
different
and what you
state.
are putting
You don't
her
know
But I'm saying
through
sitting on a plane full of strangers is some kind of big.
And
to
the
do
people
now?
of America.
Every time you get on a plane, you're sitting by strangers. It's hundreds of people fit on planes. The pilot is a
Every
stranger.
state where
The
this
people feeding
issue
you
has
drinks
been on the
is
ballot in
strangers.
red and blue states both. The people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's
the
problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question. Would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said,
Yeah.
we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do
I
with
was
the
gonna
baby.
say it was Virginia.
Yeah, I heard that
It
quote.
turned
Yep,
out to
I saw that
immigration and
video.
border
That leaked.
security.
It was a
We know
leaked
it's an issue
video.
that's
From,
Yeah,
I
important
think
to
Project
exactly.
Veritas.
Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris,
All the
you were
Planned
tasked by
Parenthood
President
stuff
Biden
coming out
with
right
getting to the
now
root
Yeah.
causes
with
of
O'Keefe,
migration from Central
with
America.
the
We know that
selling
illegal
baby
border
body parts
crossings
for
reached a
profit and
record
all that
high in the
leaked
Biden
out.
administration. This past
Yeah.
June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from
She
President
looks
Biden?
tired, bro.
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States
I don't think that's the flex she thinks it is, though.
came
That you're
up
the
with
only
a
person on
border
the stage.
security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on.
But it would have allowed what 2,000 to 5,000 extra.
It would have
She's talking
codified
about
over 5,000 illegals to come across the
flow of
border
fentanyl coming into the
a day,
United
per
right?
day.
States. I know there are so
It would
many
have gave
families
another
watching
50
tonight
billion so to
who've been personally
Ukraine,
affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That
and
bill
damn near none for
would
the
have put
border.
more resources to allow us to prosecute
No.
transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why?
It was a bad
He
deal.
prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
The problem you created, bitch.
This
I
comes
know money
at a
was wrapped up
time
in it for
where
Ukraine,
the
which I do
people
not
of our
support in
country
any
actually
form or
need
fashion.
a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former
I got some
president
receipts
is
on
someone
that.
who
I'll
would
share it
prefer to
during the
run on a
commercial.
problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm
Killing me, T-Mobile. I hate your guts, T-Mobile.
We'll
Don't
see
try to
during the
sponsor
course
me.
of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there. And then showing them in a different.
Hey, he said they don't even go to her rallies. I'll lose more people than you have
the most
show up.
incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III.
Jeez. T-Mobile, I got some complaints.
towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I've been seeing the news. People saying the Haitians.
It's not true, bro.
Pets.
It's not true.
I didn't think it was, bro, but I'm sitting here like they is really on Haiti's head.
Hey, it might be.
They are killing the ducks. They're killing the ducks.
They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase. Make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, will end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify.
That I do agree with.
Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog.
Yeah, because the news never lies.
Used for food, so maybe he said that, and
He
maybe
said-
that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But
television.
the people are
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond.
That's not a point. Yeah, come on.
If it didn't happen, it's gonna happen eventually. Kamala get in.
You know, this is, I think,
saw
one of
that
the
alligator
reasons
with
why
that
in
with
this
that migrant in
election,
his
I
mouth.
actually have
That's
the
what I
endorsement
saw.
of 200
Talk
Republicans
about that.
who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain.
Yeah, Dick Cheney endorsed you.
former
Yeah.
Vice
No, thank
President
you.
Dick Cheney and
All three
Congress
people I
member
hate.
Liz
Wow.
Cheney. And if you
Liz
wanna
Cheney
really
is somebody I
know
hate.
the inside track
That-
on
she
who
said that like
the
that's a
former
good
president
thing.
is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask
She
people who
said
have
that. That's a
worked
good
with him.
thing.
His former chief of staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States.
Oh, that McMillie
His former
sellout.
national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term.
These are all DC swamp
And when we
DC swamp
listen
creatures.
to this kind of rhetoric, when the
She is full of talking points, man.
I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond
Yeah.
here.
Thank you. Because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people.
Ah,
Man, oh man.
Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president.
And
sitting
Biden got more
president
votes than Obama.
in
Can you
history
believe
by
that?
far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier. So let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard.
David Muir. When is the commercial break so we can
11
switch
million
streams?
undocumented immigrants. I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And This will be one of the
Just like
greatest
Scarface,
mistakes in
Mario
history for
Boatman
them to
in
allow.
Cuba.
And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
well, you can trust the FBI. They've never done nothing wrong.
Oh,
They
FBI.
didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted.
Oh,
National security crimes, economic crimes, election interference.
She delivers her lines like she's expecting an audience response, and there's no audience. You know what I'm saying? Like these pauses and these weird gesticulations and stuff.
And
there's no audience.
Where each person stands on the issue
All
of
the
what is important about respect for the rule of law.
Yeah, you're Biden DOJ prosecuting your
Defunding
political
federal law
opponents.
enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So
Yeah,
let's
all
talk
BS.
about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on
And not
this
elect
same
you.
old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris,
How is a person
Excuse me. Every
actively
one
in
of
the
those cases
administration
was
going to
started
say
by
turn the
them
page
against
and
their
vote for me,
political
and you're
opponent.
actively
And I'm
employed by
winning
the
most of them,
administration
and
as
I
vice
will win the
president?
rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ from Atlanta and far
Judge
west
Marchand, who
to the
daughter
Attorney
fundraises for
General of New York
Democrats.
and the DA in New York.
Right.
Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months
Yep,
ago,
that
it
fell
was
apart,
thrown out.
Jack Smith.
It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election.
President
They're
Trump.
fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well,
Well,
let's talk about
that's
extremes and
irrefutable.
understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were
And
to
any
enter the
other
White House
president.
again.
It applies to
Understand,
you if you're
this is
elected.
someone who has openly said he would
But
terminate.
it don't apply to
I'm
vice
quoting,
presidents who
terminate
taking documents because they don't have
Constitution of the
authority to
United States,
declassify
that he
anything.
would weaponize
Now Democrats
the
want
Department
to
of Justice against his
they want to come
political
after the Supreme
enemies.
Court.
Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no
She's all talking points, man. Like
Let's
legitimately, she's not.
lower food and gas prices sound good to me.
Vice
They put
President
them in.
Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last
She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to, Lindsay.
Yeah, he wants to.
Your last run for president, you said
I
you
love
wanted to
how they
ban
don't even
fracking.
mention. They don't even want to talk about assassination attempt. You see him shut him down.
Assault weapons. Now your campaign says you
Let's
don't.
memory hold
You
that
started
so
decriminalizing
people don't
border
remember.
crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of at least every point that you've made. 20. I will not ban fracking.
The values don't
I have
change.
not
We got no
banned
values at
fracking
all.
as Vice President of the United States.
Right.
And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to, in reliance on foreign oil, we have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother.
A doctor, middle
When I
class.
was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of
Growing up in
homeownership, knowing not
Canada, getting
everybody
that
got handed
authentic Black
$100 million
experience
on a silver platter and then
in
fought back
Ontario,
times.
maple
Is a
syrup.
value that I bring to my
Montreal.
work
They don't
to
even
say
speak
we are
English in
going to
Montreal.
Work with the private.
Yeah, that Black French experience.
Private schools.
Increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related
Going
to
to India every
having
year.
a friend when I was in high school who
Right.
was sexually assaulted by her stepfather.
Oh,
And
there
my
goes this
focus
again.
then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed.
She shielded
And
the
what
Catholic
is
Church
important is that
from
there is a president
allegations
who
of
actually
pedophilia
brings
in San
values
Francisco.
and a
Out here in
perspective that is
California,
about
bro, she
lifting
literally
people up and not beating people down.
to
And
enter
name
female
calling.
prisons.
The true measure of the
Right.
He
leader
codified and
is the
legalized that.
leader who actually
And there's female
understands
inmates
the
getting
strength is
raped
not in beating people down,
by
it's
these
in lifting people up. I intend to
Terrible.
be that
men.
president.
President Trump, your
Well, first of
response?
all, I wasn't given $400 million.
On
I
top
wish
of the
I
black
was.
men
My
she been
father was a
locking up
Brooklyn builder,
for
Brooklyn,
years.
Queens,
Right.
and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies, like I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please.
Ooh,
Does that sound
that's
familiar?
good.
She went out in Minnesota and won.
Oh, he threw that back at her.
Yeah.
I'm
She wanted to
talking
be able
now.
to say that.
Yeah,
Man.
right in your face. Right in your face.
Guns,
I got a
and she will
screenshot.
never allow
That's
fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in
Well, I'll
Pennsylvania
tell you
will
where it
end
was.
on day one. Just to finish one thing, so
Oh, no, never
important in
mind.
my
I can't. They
opinion.
don't have a timestamp on it.
So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done.
About an
before.
hour and
When they took
37
over,
minutes in.
they got rid of it, started getting rid
all
of it.
good. I'm gonna probably
and
rewatch
prices
this
were
whole thing
going up
tomorrow.
the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to mills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment
to.
that
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your
Oh, my God. I'm so tired of this.
Here we go.
What played out in the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets.
The officers waving people into the Capitol building.
Message,
right, walking them around like it was a guided tour.
Is there anything you regret?
Locking up 78-year-old
You just said
grandmothers.
everything that isn't covered peacefully and patriotically. I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people.
She was a Trump supporter trying to stop the mob, and they shot her through the door.
What about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact,
this is going to be the death
she
of
knows
me.
what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all over the world because of it?
But let me just
one of those, David, one of those people.
Well, I would say it's interesting that you don't see Antifa or any of these protests going on right now, even though things aren't
city
better.
Of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
you. Might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question is about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi.
Wow.
But I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
You don't have nothing to say.
You can see they're trying to.
Well, you're trying to steer the conversation in a way that's favorable to her, but it's not going to work. If you're objective, you've seen that film.
To attack our nation's capital.
That's not what happened, bitch. We just
Desecrate our nation's capital on that day.
The talking points.
That's what I'm saying. It's like
injured.
she's going to say what she wants to say, whether it's been refuted or not, and they don't call her out on it. But whatever Trump says, it don't matter if it don't jive with what she done already said or she expects to say.
Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say?
This was taken out of context.
People on each side.
He was talking about the people who wanted to protect the statue.
Proud Boys, a militia. The president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by.
There's a whole 5-minute video.
Everyone watching who remembers
there's a whole 5-minute video.
I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page.
Into authoritarianism.
Is a bridge too far for you?
It feels like she should not have opted for there not to be an audience.
There's a whole 5-minute video of him denouncing white supremacy.
For our democracy to stand for rule of law and to end the chaos and to end the approach that is
Charlottesville's
about
debunked
attacking
years
the
ago.
foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath. If this
Oh my God, she is not saying that.
Wow.
She is not bringing that up.
He was talking about the auto industry.
chart a course
Wow.
for the future and not
Wow.
This doesn't make her look good at all, man. Like, honestly, this don't make her look good.
The community notes are going to be blowing up tomorrow on like
because they're not fact checking her at all. There's no fact
checking. The media is just good. They're like score.
Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Man,
He's giving up the game.
Fresh
He's giving up the game.
Fresh and Fit had a guy on yesterday or the day before yesterday, Border Patrol agent, bro, and he broke it down in detail, like all of the changes that the Biden administration has done to a lot of these,
many times saying you want a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short. Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
Rikers are in Detroit now, too. My cousin just told me about.
It was lost by a whisker.
Oh, yeah.
That was said
Dexter, right?
sarcastically.
Yeah, she got to connect the DHS.
What you have to do is look
they had Sturban
should have sent it back to the
off of
legislature for
Linwood,
approval.
West Side.
I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls. And we have to have it. We have to have borders and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad.
Well, this is undisputable. I mean, the Simpsons got a joke making fun of the election from 2020, 2004.
To get them to vote, and that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm.
No, you're so full of shit.
Make it, and we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republican,
judge looked at it
and said
they said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We
Michigan.
have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President,
I don't know whose fault it is, but the nation has been in decline for a long time. I don't know whose fault it is. But it's been in decline. I just telling my dad this morning. America is not a real country. This is a joke.
But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days.
Shout out to Krista. They lie so much that it forces you to defend Trump just by fact checking their BS.
Man, that is it.
That's the bar.
I know I'm over here looking like this is a MAGA hat I got on, bro.
Which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear.
There's no way you can tell me that Joe Biden got more votes than Barack
81
Obama.
Right.
People
No
didn't
way.
vote ever voted for
No
Obama.
way.
Them same people did not come out and vote for Trump. I mean, Biden.
to
Biden.
upend the will of the voters in a free and fair
Oh,
election.
this woman.
And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as vice president of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump.
I'm
have
not laughing
talked
at
with
you guys
military
right now.
leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way
Projecting.
in a presidential debate and deny
So what
what
you're saying
over and
is,
over again are
it's
court
cool
cases
for a
you have
current
lost
vice president to be
because
making
you
fun of a
did
former
in fact
president with
lose
foreign
that
leaders.
election. It leads one to
It's
believe
interesting.
that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact.
No.
That's deeply
No, the data doesn't have the obedience to submit to the establishment as much as, you know,
Respected man. They call him a strong man.
most.
He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid.
I mean, at the very least, they thought he was so
Afraid of him.
unpredictable
Look
that
at
they
what's going on with North Korea, by the way.
changed their
He
behavior.
said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord
At least
Stream 2
unpredictable. I
pipeline.
agree.
And
And Putin, you notice Putin is always like, oh yeah, Biden.
pipeline.
Yeah, Putin says Kamala
That. But he
because
let
he
the
don't want
Russians
Trump
build
back
a
in.
pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany.
Yeah, they blew that Nord Stream.
Guess there is no
pipeline up.
commercial breaks.
Yeah, it would have been one by now.
Person is
Yeah,
Donald
no.
Trump.
They're
We
all
had
in.
no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out
In the
of office.
primary.
And you know what? I'll give
Yep.
you a little secret. He
Nobody
hates her.
voted for
He can't
Kamala in the
stand her.
primary.
But he got 14 million votes.
Installed.
They
Oh, yep. They don't want to hear that part. That's the
It's an old
definition of a
comment, but
plan.
I don't understand it, but
Mr.
I'm
President,
okay with it
Mr.
because
President, your time
I
is up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more
Man.
to
Turning now
Yes.
to the Israel.
How long was this debate? He had a lot more. What is it? Another hour?
Americans
It's an hour and a
Vice
half.
President Harris in December.
Oh, I'm about
you
to
said,
say.
quote,
I thought
Israel
that's
has
what
a
it
right
was.
to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9
Does
months
Kamala
ago.
look
Now
black
an
to you?
estimated
Yes or no?
40,000 Palestinians are dead.
Yeah.
Nearly
Look
100
black.
hostages remain.
She
But
do look
you
like
know,
Carmen Harlan a little bit.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
now a deal in the
You look
making.
black.
President
Black
Biden
You know,
is
has
Carmen
been
Harlan
able
is
to
still
break through
darker.
the stalemate.
Yeah.
How
but-
would you
Oh yeah, Carmen. Yeah.
well. Let's understand how we got here. On October 7th,
Blackish.
Yeah, black.
Hamas,
Right,
a
right.
terrorist
Like-
organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis.
She
Many
definitely
of
don't
them
look
young people
Indian.
who were simply
Her
attending
sister
a
look more
concert.
Indian than she do.
You
Yeah.
can just tell us like you mix you part black, but
I
you
said
mix
then,
with
I'll
Right.
some.
say
It's that
now.
one drop
Israel
rule.
has a right to
Yeah,
defend itself.
you know,
It
like she
would.
could be from New Orleans or some shit
And
like
how
that.
it
You
does
know
so
what I'm saying?
Right.
matters.
You know.
Yeah.
Because it is
Yeah, Carmen
also
Harlan,
true
Channel
far
4,
too
but
many
this ain't no
Right.
sister
I always
soldier.
wondered.
Palestinians have been killed.
This ain't
I
no
always
Bill
wondered
Donahue,
Children,
sister
mothers.
soldier. All right.
Nah,
What we
nah.
know is that this
Since
war
you
must
said,
end.
her
It
sister looked
must
more Indian, I
end
was wondering if her
immediately.
mama
And
cheated
the
on her
way
daddy.
it
That's
will
why they got
end is we
divorced.
need a ceasefire deal
I mean,
and we need the
but she
hostages
does look
out.
Indian. Her sister look
And so we
Indian.
will continue to work around the clock on that.
Her sister look
Work
full
around
blooded.
the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that
Because they don't
solution,
bring
She
their
look
daddy up
like
for
her
nothing.
daddy. That's what she
security
look
for
like.
the
Her-
Israeli
she played
people
by her
of
Yeah, but I'm
Israel
saying they
and
don't
an
bring him around
equal
for
measure for the
nothing, bro.
Yeah,
Palestinians.
they don't
But the
get
one thing I
along.
will assure you always, I will always give Israel
Daddy
the ability to
issues.
defend itself, in
Yep.
particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so
Oh,
rightly
I used to
deserve.
find bombs.
President Trump
It's just her whole
They used to
history.
flying bombs to one side, man.
Right.
in order to get the hostages out and
That's
prevent
out of
the
here, man.
killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza.
If I were
Hey,
president,
can we got time to
would have
chop it
never
up? Let's
started.
chop it up. I
If
got a
were
lot of thoughts
president,
after the
Russia
debate.
would
We
have
can chop it
never,
up.
ever. I know Putin very
I don't want
well.
to talk
He would
over
have
him.
never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up. Far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech.
And
She
this is
refused
where
to
the
be there because she
duopoly
was
is
at a
sucked
sorority
ass,
party
man.
of hers.
This is
She
where it
wanted to go
sucks
to the
ass,
sorority party.
right here.
She
Yeah, I can't co-sign Trump's Israel stance.
Right, yeah. Come on, bro. She's married to a Jew.
About that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald of all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation. And now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East.
Hey, Yemen is wreaking havoc on these dudes, man. And they ain't even got a navy.
With Ukraine and Russia ended, if I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows
Really?
that. He's trying.
You
to,
America
again,
first?
and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself.
Oh, there
It
go
is
that.
well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well
I don't care. Ukraine
Ukraine,
don't border
America.
Detroit.
brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats
Oh, so it
are
looks like
rooting
the debate goes on a break at the hour mark.
Talk about projecting.
Right.
Okay, you want to switch now?
leaders
Or?
who you have worked with. Have
Yeah, we
told
can
me
switch now,
you
man,
are a
because this is killing
disgrace.
me.
That is why we understand that we have to have a
So
president
break's about
who
to
is
happen.
not consistently
Yeah, it's
leading
on break
and
right now.
working
Hour
on
mark.
national
President
security,
Harris.
So it
including
might be
the
a
importance
2-hour
of
debate then, because why would they
upholding,
break?
No,
respecting, and
it's only
highest
it's an hour
regard
and
our
a half.
military.
They on
President
they on
Harris,
they on
thank
that break
you.
now. They showing a
And she's
commercial
the
right
one
now.
that caused it.
Oh.
That's weak
Yeah,
for
you can
national security by allowing every nation last
You want
You
to
can
this?
do the present,
a
and I'll
year,
bring you in and take mine out.
168 different countries sending people into our
You're gonna
country.
cut it now?
Their
I can
crime
still
rates are
see
way
it.
down.
They're still
Putin
talking.
endorsed her last week. Said, I hope, and I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever Europe? Because they're weak.
So I
and they're
see it down
ineffective.
here. So
And
I'm
Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate.
Okay.
Gavin Newsom behind the news desk.
Yeah.
All right, this has gotten really spicy. This is whew. So what's everybody's
So I
thoughts
got
so far?
I got your tab up. So hopefully it'll do a little better than mine.
All right.
You're right.
Yeah. So
So when it comes back, you can bring it up.
Well,
I'm
sharing my tab now. So what else is it doing? I think you got to bring it in.
Oh no, you're sharing it, but you're sharing you're showing the YouTube instead of the tab with the debate on it. Is that what you was watching on here?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you got to just switch to
okay. Yeah, we see it now. All
yeah,
right.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll start off. To me, man, she doesn't look comfortable on stage. She's just rattling off talking points. Like I said, it appears that she's trying to talk in a way. What up? What up?
Hey, what up?
She's
Carvel
talking in a way. She's talking in a way that I feel like would appeal to an audience, and she doesn't have an audience. And overall, she's flustered. Maybe she's calmed down a bit, but she's sticking to talking points that Trump has already refuted. And like Krista was saying, they're saying so much lies that just by fact checking the lies, you seem like a Trump supporter. And we've already discussed, I'm probably voting for the Green Party because, they align most with what I believe, anti-war, a reparations policy that's substantive. It's kind of terrible. But, yeah. So I'll let you guys kind of discuss where you are.
Well, you can go ahead, bro. You want to go ahead?
Conservative brother.
All right, Gerard, appreciate it. Yeah. I would say overall, I kind of went in knowing what to expect and just seeing the Kamala once again has to not only talk to those deep Kamala supporters, the ones who were just Biden's okay, economy's doing great, and then switch it up. Oh, Kamala is going to fix the economy. So it was a lot of the talking points I expected. At the same time, you got Trump over here. Obviously, I don't agree with the Israel stance, but you can see that he's a little more focused in. He knows kind of what he has to stick to, talk on. And once again, you just got Kamala just having to really just sort of carry the water to what the Democrats want her to say. And I don't know, man. I got a whole lot I can kind of go off on, but as far as just her stances, you're just kind of seeing the just the authoritarian mask coming off, if you will. And like you were saying, conspiracy brother, her stage presence isn't there. It's just very canned. She's trying to make up for Trump hitting back with just neuro-linguistic programming as far as her shaking her head and smirking. But yeah, other than that, Gerard, if you want to step in real quick before we get back started.
Yeah. I just agree with you guys. I'll wait. Yeah. Let me make sure that this audio is going to work all good.
All right.
Position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's, where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here.
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. It was just to clarify the question. Do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war? Yes,
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president, you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me.
Same difference.
I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened.
I don't have a problem with that.
I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself.
Puppet.
Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO.
Projecting just on a whole nother level.
And what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator.
No, it's a business relationship, if you knew anything about it.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight.
I don't got to like Putin, but I
can respect the man. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier. And
Biden created,
please, I'll give you a minute here.
Overthrowing
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men
you'd be in Moscow.
and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please.
Ooh,
he would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. and the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility.
The significance of the
in
passing
terms of
time.
ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the
unburdened by what has been
flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate.
Do not care about
Ukraine
in the least.
Said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen, he's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO.
That's facts.
I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Of course.
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got
and not one of those 13 servicemen came home. You can't even name it.
Negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite
but the Taliban is in charge in Afghanistan
respected world leaders.
So what's the difference?
And
y'all let them in charge.
You and Biden left $5 billion in military artillery for the Taliban.
Camp David,
what are you talking about?
Because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time.
but I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal and,
You wanna
in my
move on while
opinion,
the
the most
president is explaining the
embarrassing
problem
measures
he
in the
was
history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and
We're
politics
supposed to be
in this
mad.
country. Mr.
Kamala
President,
makes
you
us
recently said of
want
Vice
us to be
President Harris,
mad
quote,
that-
I didn't know she was black
I'll
until a
wait.
number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she
Everybody's
is.
thinking it.
I don't care.
Well, that's everybody. But they,
You make
y'all
a big
keep
deal
bringing
out of
it up.
something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words. So I'm
I don't
asking.
know. I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out.
Not black.
And I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think
See,
it's
you're not gonna say she black,
tragedy
Glenn,
that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his
He's been
career,
president, not wants to be. He's the president.
attempted to use
He was the
race to
president.
divide the American people.
This
You know,
whole
I
Hillary,
do believe that the vast majority
Hillary
of us
brown
know that we have
face
so much more in common than what
routine.
separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just
Oh,
constantly trying to
anybody else
divide
see
us,
Hillary
and
in brown
especially by
face except
race.
me?
And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was a land. He owned land. He owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same
Like the
individual
redlining that the federal government
who
set up.
took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young Black and
Oh, my
Latino
God.
boys who were innocent. The Central Park
They weren't
Five
Latino. They was, someone was black.
took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first Black president of the United States.
Hillary Clinton
And I
asked
think
him
the
to do
American
that.
people
Actually, that's a provable
Want
fact.
better
The
than
Clintons
that.
I'll take that
do
over
Better
the
than this.
94 crime bill or the
Want
86
someone who understands as I do.
mandatory
I travel
sentencing
our
act that
country.
Biden did.
We see in each
Crack
other
cocaine
a
disparity.
friend. We see in
All
each
them
other a
folks,
neighbor.
he called Biden
We don't want a leader who is constantly
He
trying
called
to
him that.
have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time.
And your feelings
who
over
tell
what
me,
Trump said versus what
can we
Biden
please
did
just
to
have
Black
discourse
America.
about how we're going
Facts.
to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's
RSP.
color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said,
Right.
well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. but they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
This is true that our inflation is worse than the Great Depression.
Briefly.
The inflation ain't worse. The
Clearly,
income to home
I am not
price
Joe Biden,
ratio is worse than the Great
and I am
Depression.
certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation
Where's
of
that
leadership
like
for our country.
thing that she's doing?
One who believes
Hillary.
in what is possible,
Hillary
one who brings a
Brownfield.
sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and
You got
let's
a
compare
plan.
the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard
Where they
work.
gonna get the
I have a
capital to even
plan,
start the business in the first
$6,000
place?
for young families for the first year of your child's life.
Nah, she
to
blowing
help
smoke,
you
man.
in that most critical stage of your child's
That money ain't
development.
gonna do
I
nothing.
have a
She's putting out
plan
the carrot.
that is about allowing people to be able to
Putting out the
pursue
carrot for the
what has
handout.
been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers.
Oh,
That's
we
the
fact
kind of
checked that.
conversation
I
I
got some
believe,
receipts
David,
on that.
that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's turn
Trump,
back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on.
Ugh.
President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
She
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania
should
or
still let him
anywhere else.
rebut
Okay.
this.
That's what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
President
because
Trump,
the
President
former
Trump,
president has said
no, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry.
I
We're
just
gonna
need to
move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this is
multiple
now
times.
your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you
That is
first
true. He
started
didn't
running, do you
repeal
have a
it.
plan? And can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I
Certainly
said,
is.
that if we come up
Last
with
time I
something,
checked.
and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when
you didn't pass
it was
one piece
up
of
for a vote in
legislation.
the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said, at the time because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't.
I like
no, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny?
You still got to pay an arm and a leg, so it's still, I mean,
asthma, if someone was a breast
can't afford
cancer
to pay
survivor,
for the bill.
if a grandparent had diabetes. And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it,
Vice
pass as
President
prologue
Harris,
in
thank
terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot
made a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what?
John McCain didn't like
We
Obamacare.
can do much better
Mitt
than
Romney
Obamacare.
didn't like
Much less
Obamacare.
money. But she won't improve
Dick Cheney
private
didn't support
insurance for
Obamacare.
people,
Liz
private
Cheney.
medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to give.
President
People
Trump-
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where
That
you
is
wait
just
6
silly.
months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight
thought
is
Trump
what
was an
would you
existential
do
threat.
to fight climate change?
Well, it
Vice
is. That
President
climate
Harris, we'll
change.
start
Only
with
two
you.
different
in 1
things.
Which one
minute
is it
each.
though?
Well, the former president
Can't
has
have
said
two of
that
them.
climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing
sellout.
in
We already knew that.
American-made
Right.
products,
I feel so
American
much better.
automobiles. It includes growing
person who
what we
supports the
can do
unions, who
around
comes from a
American
union family, a
manufacturing
union
and
background,
opening up auto
he's a
plants,
sellout.
not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico. in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people.
Right, I was about to say,
what they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing.
That's the bloodbath he was talking about, Democrats.
Horrible.
Not
We
coming
have
after you.
nothing because
The auto
they
industry
refuse.
be
You
dead.
know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son,
Yeah.
they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China?
Shell companies.
Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back.
Seems like they would have broken up into 30-minute segments.
All right.
Broken up into 30-minute segments.
All right, Gerard, you're up. Your thoughts.
Yeah, man, yeah. You could tell that she's got these rehearsed talking points. It doesn't come off well, in my opinion. Trump is more, off the cuff in the moment in his responses or what have you. But, again, I feel like the points where he could have really hit her hard at was her record as a DA, her record as a, as Attorney General. That's all really her only record, to be honest with you. She really hasn't done much as a vice president. Yeah, man, it is what it is. At the end
Either
of the
way
day,
it goes.
Yeah.
It's 2 hours of our lives we're not going to get back.
Right. It is what it is. But I feel like he was much more in the moment. You can tell that she had her talking points rehearsed. That's very clear. Yeah, I don't think this is going to move anybody, as far as independents are concerned, in any direction in either way. To be honest with you,
That's fair. It's optics. It's going to be taking different clips. Yeah, conspiracy brother. Yep.
I want to bring up, Krista posted something in the comments section. Kevin Cooper. So I'm on his Wikipedia page, and it says Kevin Cooper, born Richard Goodman, is an American man currently in prison at San Quentin State Prison's death row. Cooper was found guilty of 4 murders in the Chino Hills area of California in 1983. Cooper's conviction has garnered repeated attention from both Nicholas Kristof in the New York Times and Aaron Moriarty at the CBS News program 48 Hours. There have been accusations that Cooper received an inadequate defense, as well as prosecutorial misconduct, such as destruction of evidence, withholding exculpatory evidence from the defense, planting of evidence, brainwashing to witnesses, and perjured testimony by the sheriff's department. There have also been practical questions raised, such as how Cooper, at 155 pounds and allegedly acting alone, overpowered a 6'2" ex-military policeman and his athletic wife, both of whom had loaded firearms close at hand. It has also been questioned why a single perpetrator would use 3 or 4 different weapons to commit the murders, and why none of the victims were able to run away while the others were being attacked. Cooper's habeas corpus petitions have been denied. The evidence in the case of the original trial has been reviewed by the California Supreme Court, by the United States District Court, and by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So this is a guy, can you hear me?
Yeah.
This is a guy, Kevin Cooper, who Kamala Harris denied advanced DNA testing when he was on death row, remember, because he didn't file the petition in enough time. So she has since changed her stance. But in May, so I'll just speed up to the Harris part. In May 2018, Nicholas Kristof wrote in an article in the New York Times highlighting the case, arguing that the truth could be determined by doing advanced testing on the bloodstained T-shirt the hatchet handle, and the hand towel used by the murderer, and including diagrams showing both that Lee Furrow's stepmother lived close to where the victim's car was recovered. And this is just information about people we didn't go through because I was trying to get to the point. And that Officer Stephen Moran most likely planted evidence to frame Cooper. Soon afterward, Kamala Harris, who refused to allow the testing when she was the Attorney General of California, and Dianne Feinstein both publicly called for advanced DNA testing. In response, DA Michael Ramos submitted a response to Cooper's petition calling for the petition to be refused. Ramos would also file to have Cooper executed following his failed attempt to be reelected. So you hear that. Jerry Brown on July 3rd hinted that he might be willing to approve DNA testing. On August 17th, the defense submitted their responses to a list of questions that he had requested, revealing that they managed to acquire Lee Furrow's DNA. On October 6th, Nick Kristof wrote a follow-up in which he reported that Lee Furrow had told him that he was now open for testing to clear his name. In October 2018, outgoing Governor Jerry Brown ordered new DNA testing in the Cooper case. The testing has since been revealed insufficient DNA was recovered from the shirt, but a profile that was neither Cooper or Furrow was recovered from a hand towel taken from the victim's house.
So they're back on closing. They're back on closing.
Okay. Focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do
Trump
around
did all that with the
protecting
opportunity
seniors, what we
zones
can do that is
in
about
Virginia or
giving
Carolina with
hardworking
Senator
folks a
Tim
break
Scott.
and bringing down the cost of
Wasn't
living.
perfect, but
I believe in what we can do
Lord.
together. That is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now.
to hold
Someone
our
who
hand,
cares about you and is not putting themselves first.
pat on the
I
back.
intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris,
How do you talk about building
President
back
Trump.
up when you're currently the administration?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going
I
to
don't
do
need a
that,
president
she's
to
going to
give
do all
me a
these
hug.
wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that. And within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
So
I've just seen something I can't unsee.
And we are here live on ABC with our post-debate comments. I'm Martha Raddatz. It was a lively debate from the
We don't need to listen to her.
Portion to Afghanistan.
Yeah. So I'm not an overly patriotic person, just in general, but what I will say, so when you talk about being a leader in the world, I don't think that's America's place, right? I think we need to focus on here, making sure that we here are taken care of and that we do as much to stay out of global affairs as possible. That's what I think. But what I can say is that the standard of living, the quality of life that we see in this country, at least, comparative to the last 20 years, is worse, right? I can say, that certain issues like, oh, Brother Darbell, certain issues like, the economy, that is worse than 4 years ago. But that is still, when you look at real wages for the average worker, they haven't increased since the 70s, right? CEO pay is exponentially higher than employee pay. So things aren't getting better on either hand.
There's an echo.
Let's see.
It might be me.
Yeah, I got it. So, the country is getting worse. And as I said earlier, I don't think Trump is going to be the answer to solve these problems, right? I don't think that there's a formula that he's going to be able to follow that will make the economy work smoothly again. I think we're at a point where without, legitimate overhaul, revolutionary overhaul of the way things are operating, things are going to continue on a path of decline. But on that same hand, Kamala Harris and the Joe Biden campaign cannot present themselves as a legitimate change when you are currently the administration that is in power, right? When you look at the last 16 years, you've had a Democrat in power for 12 of those years. You cannot simultaneously say that 4 years of Trump were so detrimental that they are still an impediment to progress 3.5 years into the Biden administration, but that the 12 years of Obama were not fortified enough to withstand 4 years of a Trump presidency. Those two things, in my mind, at least, maybe I'm wrong, I can be convinced, but those two things don't go together. So I'll pause right there and open it up for anybody else to comment.
What's up, gentlemen? I hope I can hear you clearly.
Hey, yeah, Darbell, you go ahead, man. Good to see you here.
Man, listen, I just wanted to pop in and drop my 2 cents about what just occurred on national TV. And I'm going to say some things that might seem a little controversial, but I have a landing, so ride with me. Unfortunately, my composite assessment is that Kamala performed pretty well for someone who's just spitting off scripted answers, so to speak, right? She was very composed. She was very taught. She was very direct to the people, to the camera. She delivered the messages and she delivered the tone and everything the best that she can probably ever do. And that doesn't mean that it was insufficient. It just means that it can't make up for what the material deficits are that people have had with her. She wasn't really displaying any developed details around her policy. She was just kind of strengthening out the fact she held certain policy positions, and furthermore, of course, undercutting some of Trump's positions, and just the basic stuff that you have to do. But I think her biggest asset, her biggest contribution to this this debate was really her poise and her focus and her talking points. They were all very well delivered. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately because I know at the end of the day, I'm telling you, I'm not a fan of her. But she is qualified. Not unfortunately. She's qualified. I mean, qualifications in her basic essence, Trump didn't even have what she has when it comes to Senate and even state level political jobs. Competent, though, I think what happened here is that her well dictated style gave us the best taste of any type of directive leadership quality she might have, right? Even at that moment when she wanted to speak out of, she was going to basically drop some profanity on Trump at that one point when she was about to answer him. She almost called him out of his name. That was nearly intentional, but also that is probably the best that we've seen that she will ever do from a competency and leadership display. And conversely, on the other side, Trump, unfortunately for him, and again, I'm not trying to say that I'm supporting him, but I do have an issue with Kamala. I have many issues with Kamala. And so I'm kind of at a point where what happened here was it was just is what it is. But Trump really didn't do a great job at speaking on his already existing platform points specifically. He mostly reacted to what she said rather than gave responses and then pushed his own agenda to get the people who were on the fence to understand what he is going to do. And a lot of his energy was spent at, I won't say disparaging as much as I'll say villainizing and just reiterating how bad Kamala and Biden have been. So it was more like, honestly, he went to some pretty crazy extremes too, right? He did the whole cat and dog thing. I ain't even heard that. I'm not saying it's true or false. I'm just saying there were some things that were said that I think, honestly, probably didn't need to be said, even if they were true, because it makes it look crazy because no one's heard of it until now. And so now it kind of undercuts his credibility, even if it may be true, because then you got to wait a whole day or 2 days for people to fact check it and for it to spread through media. But if you got liberal media where a lot of these people are getting this in their debate from, they may not ever hear about it if it were actually true, because they're not going to do much. And as you could see, there was a bit, and here's the truth, unfortunately. I think that there were enough misleading information or outright lies that Trump said, or things that were just not proven, that ABC's hosts really had, they more often, like basically anytime they had something to say, it was to direct as a rebuttal against Trump as one of the debaters. Like when they got involved, they were dismissing things that he said. And so basically you can almost see it as a tag team, but I'm not going to go that far. I'm just saying that basically he was not even killed enough to prevent these type of things from happening during this debate. And I think he left a lot on the table that he could have used to look a lot better. And in that regard, again, he left this floor open for Kamala to kind of clean up very well, relatively speaking. And I think some of the people who are on the fence are going to be a little swayed by that, because they're like, okay, she seems to have at least a lot more gravitas to her and poise and direction than I thought up until now, because she's done better on this debate than she's ever done in her whole career that we've seen her publicly speaking. So this was almost like she may have been on some drugs level type stuff. I mean, like, it was just good. Now, it almost reminded me of Obama type in a way, but I'm not saying she's an Obama, not by far. But it was that she had come with her A game. And so I think that that's going to stand out. It's going to be hard for anybody, at least for me. I can't say that Trump won this. I say that Kamala won. And, I don't know that has to be the end all be all of his campaign, or that she's won her campaign by virtue of this debate. But it's going to take work for him to come back from that. And I think he's got to go into more specificity. He's got to speak more to his base and his people in ways that are constructive rather than just going after the opponent. And he's almost got to build his own wall again, unfortunately. And kind of my thing, because really he didn't build a wall. He didn't build up his base through this. He just kind of kept the same old. So I'm gonna land my plane there. Again, I'm not here to tell people to vote for Kamala. My position is that I don't believe that she's as genuine as you may think she is by her display today. I still don't really trust her. I don't think anybody will really trust her, but they got to pick somebody in their mind. That's a whole different discussion. And I don't think she's genuine. And I also don't believe that truly she has a real rehearsed understanding of platform politics and specifically real policy. And so that being said, I don't see myself necessarily supporting her, but I also see that Trump's people and people who are on the fence are going to have a harder time supporting him in light of this debate. So that's all I got. What y'all think?
That's a different take. I think you give her more credit, man, than I saw. And Trump was Trump, and we all know what Trump is, and we've seen Trump and he's in this venue, and he just acted accordingly. Where I feel where Trump lacked was that he didn't really, he could have really hit her hard with when the opportunities came to talk about her as her record as a DA and an AG in California. All the main reasons why I don't support her, he could have highlighted that and gotten these things that maybe the public wouldn't have known. But as they say, Trump doesn't prepare for debates. Like, you know what I'm saying? You could tell Trump, and that's just his style. I agree with you on this, Darvell. He was very much in the moment in reaction. Like you said, he didn't really talk about, he's all superlatives, right? That's just what Trump is. I was the greatest, this, that. Even, he didn't go into any specifics because he's not that type of politician. He's not a politician, and by no means. One of the things I felt like, where as far as saying what he would do in regards to Ukraine and how he stated that it would never happen. Well, he could have went into more, a more statesman or someone who's in politics would have been able to attack and say, hey, you are the reason why. The Biden administration is the reason why the Ukraine war happened. Putin was acting on reflex and response to American, Biden administration, U.S. Policy in that region. The Biden administration was part of the overthrow of the Ukrainian pro-Russian government, hence moving Ukraine closer to coming into NATO. NATO is the expansion of NATO on the borders of Russia is what caused all of this mess, right, to begin with. So, that would have been a freaking body blow. You know what I mean? Like, you're reacting to what the Biden administration caused or what have you. Few people, the American, the media, very few in the media cover this, right? From that perspective, from that particular angle, many different things. Again, like he's not a statesman. You know what I'm saying? He's not a politician. Whereas Kamala definitely came across as being a politician, right? In her scripted answers, her scripted responses. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of the independents and people, the general American public, don't want an established politician. They want something completely away from that. So I don't think she changed any heads. Changed any minds. Or what have you. I think it's going to be a very tight race. At the end of the day, it's going to really come out to turnout. And I don't see the Democrats getting that, especially with what's going on with Gaza, the black apathy, due to, lack of any, black people are waking up all across the country, due to the failures of the Democrats, lack of getting anything tangible. The issue with the migrants in the cities, I feel that's all going to suppress the black turnout, which they would need to have historical levels, Obama type levels. I don't see that happening at all. And so, my ultimate prediction is that Trump is going to win because it's going to be, you're going to have, those in the, the lower Democratic base, those who would have voted for Democrats is going to be down. Like I said, the Gaza issue, many people that's a one, for me, my one issue was reparations, which was never brought up in this, and there's only going to be one debate. Reparations didn't come up at all. Nothing about Black people came up really at all, except for, them bringing up the fact about him calling, saying that she wasn't Black or what have you. Which again, she still didn't address and didn't affirmatively state that yes, I am a Black person, of mixed race heritage or what have you. Again, she avoided that. That many people are going to be eating off of that. I guarantee you that. Coming, within the next few days, her lack of, making an affirmation about her Blackness, her avoidance to talk about it. That's just my particular belief. I don't think this is going to sway anybody either here nor there. And I honestly believe that Trump is going to win the election, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely. I'll just kind of jump in a bit. And once again, guys, it's great to, I guess, be here's my first official Freedman Collective Detroit show. So glad to be with you, gentlemen. And I guess I'll keep things maybe a little bigger picture because I mean we can kind of debate, slice and dice how both Kamala and Trump did, and there'll be a lot of commentary from days to come. But overall, I think that it's just really important that we continue having conversations like these, commentary, whether it's us, whether it's Revolutionary Blackout Network, whether it's Due Dissidents, whoever you follow out, Anton Daniels, or whoever it might be. I think that it's crucial that we continue to deep dive, to pull apart, pull back the layers, follow the truth wherever it lies. And of course, there's some things with Trump I agree with tonight. But at the same time, we never, and it's funny, like kind of somebody in the comments was like, oh, I guess y'all wearing the MAGA hats tonight. Not quite. But we got to be at a place where we're comfortable following the truth wherever it lies. And when we are talking about Kamala and the concerns as a community that we have, that doesn't mean it's just an automatic vote for Trump or you got to go run into the arms of the Republican Party. It's all about being free thinkers, having your own voice. I'm never going to bash anybody. I will bash somebody if you vote for a certain candidate and you just ignoring facts, you don't even want to hear the facts. That's one thing. But if you got all the facts and all the receipts that we show you, whether it's Kamala or Trump, and you still decide, despite the facts, I'm going to vote for Kamala, vote for it, and it's like, that's on you. So I think at the end of the day, what a lot of people have to realize is that we not only have to look at the truth wherever it may lie, but we also got to think about, hey, which candidate also aligns the most to our potential concessions, our potential special interests, and whether it's I'm not pro-Israel, I'm not pro-Palestine, I'm not pro-Ukraine either, and at the end of the day, I'm not trying to give away too much of the game, but even being America first is Black America adjacent in some ways. All right, America first, a little bit closer to Black America first versus pro-Ukraine. All right. So you got to have to kind of take it where it might, depending on where you're coming from and what concessions and what's important to you and your community. So I'm never going to sit here and bash like you got to vote for Trump, you got to vote for Kamala. But at the same time, you just need to be a free thinker with the information, the commentary we provide you. Don't go off MSNBC, don't go off Fox News. You need to go off of whoever is willing to follow the truth where it lies. So once again, like we were kind of mentioning, I think this debate did hurt Trump in some ways. Some things he could have kept off. He could have just kept close to his chest. And I think there are people that do not have the facts that are going to kind of be like, wow, Kamala, because they're just so used to kind of the politician doing the things that makes people know, oh, okay. So I'm a guy that's land playing there on not necessarily being like, oh, so and so won and this person won. We may even have 2 more debates coming up, plus a VP debate. But looking at what aligns most with your values, your concessions, your special interests, and finally just making sure that you're just you're looking to do what you got to do for your community, your family, and not just follow what everybody else is saying. So that's all I got. But
Yeah.
Conspiracy Brother, over to you.
Yeah,
Whoever wants
and
to.
I think I agree with a lot of what you guys said because I think at the beginning of the debate she looked extremely flustered, extremely out of it, and as the debate wore on, she gained her footing and got a lot more comfortable. However, I think she did not do enough, in my opinion, as a independent voter. She did not do enough to convince me that she was the better person. Now, maybe being independent, but being as informed as I am about her background and the policies that she's pushed and things she's responsible for from her time as DA and Attorney General, that skews my ability to accept this version of her. And likewise with Trump, I think a lot of his strategy rested on, and same way with Biden, I think a lot of his strategy rested on his ability to stay quiet, right? When it's not your turn to talk, don't interject. And so I think too much of his strategy was just being quiet. Like Gerard said, he didn't invest enough time in hitting her on specific policy issues, on specific decisions that she made, even like we talked about with the Kevin Cooper when I was reading just a little bit of that, where when she was the Attorney General of California, she denied his request for advanced DNA testing. Or Jamal Truelove when she was the DA of San Francisco or whatever, and he was put in jail, convicted, and he ended up suing the state of California for $13 million and winning. He did not do enough to differentiate himself in the way that Gerard said, saying, hey, because he tried to say, Ukraine happened on your watch because you looked weak or whatever. But there's very specific policy decisions that led to the Ukraine escalation. Namely, as was mentioned, NATO buildup on the Russian border in Ukraine, the overthrow of the pro-Russian president of Ukraine in 2014, the bombing of eastern Ukraine, the Maidan region, not the Maidan region, the Lugansk and Donetsk, or the Donbass region. So these are specific. These are, we got Brother Ian here. Trump made Kamala appear polished. It's kind of shameful that the race question in America has boiled down to Kamala's identity, and I agree. But there was not enough effort on his part to specifically say, these are things you have done. These are things that your administration has done. How do you reconcile those positions that you took, the things that you did with your image today or with the daily lives of the American people? Now, I'll also say that, David Muir, and I forget the lady's name, they did almost act as co-debate partners with Kamala Harris. So you were in a situation where they would fact check him, or if they wouldn't fact check him, they would hit him. Okay, this is whatever. But when she would say, hey, the 2025 and whatever, and Trump said, this ain't my plan, they never had a pushback to say, well, the president, the former president has already said this is not his plan, right?
Right.
So it was a biased situation. And so he has to come into that understanding that, it's him against everybody in the media establishment, at least the liberal media establishment. I would even say in the conservative media establishment, because a lot of the policies that he wants to implement, at least that he claims to want to implement, would eat into their profits from the military industrial complex. If you are in fact trying to limit the amount of foreign engagements and entanglements that we're involved in. But, he has to be, and maybe there will be more debates, right? Like some of the commenters have said, I don't necessarily think that either one of them, if you don't like Trump, I don't think you have become convinced that he is the candidate for you after tonight's performance. If you didn't like Kamala Harris and it was substantive, if it wasn't just because of the fact that she said she's black and you don't believe she's black, or any of the other trivialities, but if it's a policy-based situation where you say, based on the last 4 years, is my life better or worse? Even like when they said about the situation with the border, why did you wait until just recently, within 6 months to do anything about it? The reason is because this is all a political game. It isn't sincere. And so I don't think that she moved people who have a substantial or substantive qualms with her as a politician. But I mean, yet to be seen how that affects long term. I think there are a lot of people who there are a lot of people who I think are already done with the Biden and Harris administration. And I think they have moved on. I think there are enough people who believe that Trump can do better with the economy. And I as I stated, when we started this, I don't think that he has a recipe to flip some switch and make the economy boom. But there are enough people who believe that I think, he's going to get the edge. I sincerely do. I think there are a lot more people who support Trump silently than last time, and there are a lot more people who support him publicly, vocally than last time. And I just don't see how a person can be in the current administration and present themselves as an agent of change or as a candidate for a different,
Yeah, just let that breathe. Let that breathe.
I just want to put a wrapper on it because I just want to hop on you here with you gentlemen and drop my 2 cents and hear y'all's kind of wrap up comments from this whole debacle. And I appreciate everyone's view. I definitely understand what you're saying. I don't disagree that maybe people weren't really moved if they already had their seat, right? It's kind of like musical chairs. If you're already in a seat, or you really moved by tonight's activity, I can see that. Like Kamala didn't move anybody in there unless they were on trivial stuff, like you said. They're on some trivial reasoning. Yeah, they could get swayed by the wind, right? But if you still had a position, she didn't do anything. She didn't, like I think I hopefully said, she didn't bring anything substantive, but she did a better job at just talking. And so,
yeah, she did a better job at politicking. And see, this is another thing I wanted to say, and if anybody else want to jump in, feel free to cut me off. But the thing that I think made Trump so likable in 2016 for a lot of people was that he called out Hillary Clinton for her past decisions, her policy decisions. The way that you handled Libya, or the way that you handled, what did he say? Not the emails, but it was, he talked about very specific, he talked about the Bush family in the primaries and how they dealt with Iraq and how we should have never been there. He called out John McCain. He called out Mitt Romney. He called out the Republican Party for their past policy decisions that had a detrimental effect on America that we can all agree on, right? Bush was horrible. Cheney was horrible. Mitt Romney would have been horrible, right? John McCain, horrible. There was never a war he didn't like. Same with Lindsey Graham. He was willing to call those people out. And so when he got to the primary, he was willing to call out the indiscretions of the Democratic Party under Obama and Hillary Clinton. He has lost, I don't know if it's something that he was coached out of, but he has lost his ability to do that. You cannot have an ideology that Israel is the prime treasure of American foreign policy and diplomacy, and simultaneously portray yourself to be an American first candidate, like conservative brother was just saying. They don't go together, right? They don't go together because Israel's not America. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene was saying about Ukraine, it's not the 51st state. Neither is Israel. It's not the 51st state. And so, it shows a little bit of lack of credibility in your own words that I think has changed the way that he's able to present himself and his policy proposals and positions relative to 2016 and even to some degree in 2020. You know, they didn't talk about the way that the vaccine situation affected your ability to have bodily autonomy, right? He didn't talk about the way that, you know, American foreign policy has destabilized South and Central America, which has caused all these migrants to come up here, right? In a way that you could still say, because in a lot of ways he didn't perpetuate those policy proposals and decisions. And it just didn't happen. It didn't hit. You know, he was in some ways erratic and too self-aggrandizing to convince other people that he, you know, is the better option, even though, you know, maybe he thought it should be self-evident based on the economy. But I think, you know, if you're trying to convince people to vote for you, you should at least do more to play that game.
Agreed. And let me just ask this one question real quick. Do you guys think Kamala's response regarding Israel basically tanked her chances with the Arab Americans? Because she said, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean it's already, man. The abandoned Harris movement, you know, after the abandoned Biden movement is a full swing, full effect. You know what she lost them when they wouldn't allow the Palestinian politician to speak at the DNC. So that's already gone. That's over with. That's one of the reasons why I believe she won't win Michigan. I mean, she won't win Michigan at all because of that single thing. You know, because they're demanding, you know, a halt of weapons being sent, not just a ceasefire, but you know, but weapons embargo to Israel. And it's clear that, you know, Harris, you know, is not going to succumb to that demand. So yeah, it's over with. If she doesn't get in, you know, basically she can't lose Michigan or Pennsylvania and still win. It's not, neither one of them can. But yeah, I don't see her pulling out Michigan at all. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and head on out, guys. It's getting late, and I gotta get back up not a couple of hours from now. So I'll just end that. You know, the main thing is that Black America wasn't brought up at all. To Ernest's point, you know, that's sad that the only Black issue or Freeman issue was in regards to her identity, and even herself, she wouldn't even address that. I was hoping I hope that we get another debate, but I doubt it, because it can only damage her, to be honest with you, in my opinion. It'll allow Trump to maybe, you know, come back and you know, go over. I'm sure his people are looking like, hey, you should have said this, or you could have did this. I don't think they're gonna, you know, it's 56 days, man, to the election. Maybe we'll get the vice presidential debate, and that's probably, I doubt that they're gonna do another one. I really don't.
I think JD Vance will probably do better.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There's Tim Walz.
Yeah. I think JD Vance will be able to have a better debate performance against Tim Walz. I mean, overall, you know, and again, if anybody, you know, cut me off or interject, but just the state of the country based on the economy, it's unfortunate that these are the only two options we have. Like I said, for me, it's a matter of some type of legitimate political revolution is needed, where we have to overhaul this whole system. Otherwise, we're just rearranging, like they say, rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. You know what I'm saying? And so overall, it's just a futile attempt at saving an inevitable disaster. Because, as Ernest said, you know, with the double speak on Israel and the situation with Palestine, she was more full-throated in her defense of Israel than she was in that she was a Black person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? She had a greater allegiance to protecting and supporting Israel than she did at saying she was Black.
But the people are gonna be like, well, she ain't gotta respond to that,
Right. There's even the audacity to even ask the question. It's that very elitism sort of like, how dare you? So
It's they even asked Michael Jackson. Trump asked him that. He responded. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say Trump could have come back with what I understood to be the best defense, which is like, hold on, first of all, I was asked a question and I answered it. That's where we're gonna start. I didn't come out swinging at her on that topic. I was asked a question, and I
very hostile question.
It was already a loaded question, and he don't lie. So he gonna lay out there what his opinion is. So to tell him, and again, this is just how I seen it. To say that he isn't a pro, because that low. So hold on, wait a minute. Two things. The question I'm referring to was the original one by the on the NABJ stage.
Right.
But that question was already hot. But the question that anchor tonight asked him was loaded as well, because it wasn't even on the premise of him having any opinion about her. It was on the premise of saying that when he answered a question he was asked, his answer somehow part and parcel, like in and of itself, was an attack on her identity or anybody's racial identity. And it was like, this is how I see the reality of Kamala's identity based on the question I was asked. It's kind of like if you ask someone their opinion, then you attack them for their opinion. Like, wait a minute, huh? Do you want to know if I like spaghetti and meatballs together, or do you want me to eat spaghetti and mashed potatoes together? Like, can I have what I am? And then you're going to attack me for it? Again, I don't want to try to look like I'm trying to just defend, but I'm like, to the point made earlier, there was a bit of bias in some of the questions directed toward Trump. And there was bias in seeing their assists that they performed for Kamala by countering Trump's comments, but not countering hers. When clearly everybody's known from the go. Even when I did P2025, I should have made it clear. That dude ain't said nothing, ain't had nothing, and yeah, there's a cross-pollination of some of the people, but that's not his, he got his whole website. If that was his thing, he would embrace it, because I'm sure a lot of people like that stuff, right? The only reason he ain't embrace it, because it's not his.
Thank you. Agenda 47, I've been preaching this, and the whole Project 2025 propaganda, that's the new Russiagate. That's oh crap, we can't talk about Russia no more. Trump's not.
We're gonna get knocked off the tube, bro.
Let's go ahead, Project 2025. But yeah, man, I think everybody here has such great curated perspectives on what we saw tonight, for better or worse, to give everybody out there listening more perspective. Can I do a couple shameless plugs while I'm here? We got a little minute, but we head out. All right, cool. So obviously, me and Conspiracy Brother also host Uncomfy Truths. Next episode coming up on Sunday 15th. So definitely check us out, Uncomfy Truths, Politics Talk. We're friends of the show, Freedom Collective Detroit. So all you guys, those that part of this collective, are always welcome to join. We also got another thing too, but I don't know if we want to plug that, or we could a little project. WhatsApp.
So we were going to try to host a panel. We're going to try to host a panel concerning black men and Kamala Harris. There's going to be Black Men Not for Kamala Harris is like the tentative title, but we're trying to get a varying degrees of opinions about how they view her relative to policy, and maybe some superficial perceptions of her.
Right.
Because we'd like to kind of know what the people think, how the people on the ground feel about her. And so this is something we're trying to organize. So we'll try to do some different avenues to get a panel of people to come and participate.
And this is a conversation. This isn't about, just bashing Kamala. It's all about bringing different perspectives. And once again, we're going to be talking more about that. Maybe doing a joint collective, reaching out to different people for that. So we're not trying to make it into just a rant session. But yeah, definitely come at it the right way. So I just wanted to kind of plug that, and love what you guys are doing. Glad to be here.
Oh yeah, glad to have you. Glad we could all come together and do this. Let's see, Brother Ernest, she didn't answer any questions regarding her without discussing. Yeah, Trump was defending himself from her and the questions. And that was the situation. Even when you look at, because I tried to look at her I tried to look at her platform on her website, and we were kind of discussing it during the commercial breaks before the debate. And every section of her platform, she had a link to I guess it was a 2025 agenda item. And so there's, if you know,
you gotta go check that out, Darville. Yeah.
Yeah. When you're talking to when you're talking to a female, you may say, I'm different than other guys or whatever, but you don't talk to her, and every guy that goes by say, I'm better than him because of this, and I'm taller than him, and I'm stronger than him, and I'm faster than him. Because at some point you have to stand on your own worth. Right? I have to be able to convince you that I'm the best guy around based on how I am. Not how I am compared to all these guys, but how I am, in and of myself. Her inability to be a candidate without linking her differentness from Trump in a way that isn't actually, politically politically motivated, or isn't driven by policy or action, but just purely because this policy that he's already decried, even at this debate publicly. The guy who was in charge of Project 2025 even got fired. He was like the CEO of the 2025. The Heritage Foundation fired the guy.
Oh, they got rid of that dude because of his comments. He made that crazy comment.
Yeah,
they
fired him.
Man, not to mention, like, are we gonna even discuss the hypocrisy of kind of like what you were saying, Kamala strategy? Oh, Trump's the the threat to democracy, blah blah blah. How can you be talking about this guy as an existential threat on one hand, yet y'all been copycatting his policies the past 3-4 months? So you can't say this Trump guy is like gonna got this hand on the nukes, is gonna be World War III. At the same time, you're copycatting the taxes on tips policy. I think JD Vance was Kamala just JD Vance was talking about giving like a $5,000 a child tax credit, and then a week later Kamala was like, we're gonna do a $6,000 child tax credit. So it's just very weird how the danger orange man over here, but you still in the dangerous orange man policies, and you trying to copy them as your own. So there's been a lot of that foolery, say the least.
And like I said, even by trying to speak on John McCain and the Cheneys and all this stuff, all the Republicans from his administration who support her now or who don't support him, she's trying to beat the Republican candidate by running to his right, not offering a liberal or left alternative to, neoconservative political ideology, right? She's not offering to strengthen workers' protections or wages in a way that's legitimate for the middle class, or a way that prioritizes anti-war sentiment or anti-interventionism, which is, historically a hallmark of left-wing politics, right? Anti-war, anti-interventionism, supporting the worker, supporting the family, all these kind of things. She's not doing that. She's trying to, in the same way that we talked about Clinton and third-wave Democrats after Reagan, running in a way that made them the more extreme conservative alternative, from guys like Joe Biden, policies like the 94 crime bill,
Black Eagle being overturned.
Right.
NAFTA, the ACA actually is came out
Mitt Romney.
Republican thing. You know what I mean? All these ideas, the Democrats have just become Republican light. You know what I mean? In essence, and see, that's where he could have, in my opinion, differentiated himself. If he had some political savvy, or but like
study.
I would like okay, he did it. He said about the MAGA hat, that was a great line, but he could have went even further and more in detail and say and talk about how basically, like you said, you just going to the right of me or trying to be a Republican light. So instead of you might as well just vote for the Republican, you know what I'm saying, versus the Republican light, you know what I mean, which would have damaged her in front of her base, and also, you know what I'm saying, would have made certain independents like turn away that may have been straddling on the fence or what have you. If you expose more of their corporate, the Democrats, and by extension of her being an establishment Democrat, their policies and so on and so forth. Like, well, you might as well get the real thing. Why go with the fake? And that would have been, in my opinion, the best way, instead of trying to do the stupid stuff of trying to make her out to be ultra liberal, you know what I mean, which is a false, you know what I'm saying, but it's a tired talking point, of the right, by trying to say, oh, this is going to be the most communist and so, radical leftist, when that clearly isn't what she is, and the record will show that, and it makes them look, really silly and hyperbolic when they do that, you know what I mean? And it catches us in this weird freaking, cycle of this, right? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, y'all trying to paint out that, these establishment like Obama was a communist, Muslim radical and all of that, when that could be easily debunked, and you make yourself look really silly instead of being grounded in facts and truth, and that's why I'm like going Green Party, right? Because it's really the only real third party that really calls out both of the Democrats and the Republicans and their corporate ways and both of their warmongering ways, right? And both of their their corruption, because really that's what it is. It's the same thing. At the end of the day, just one has a particular face and the other has a particular face, but they both are being backed by the by the big donors, the interest or what have you, the special interest in this country. They both like Cuomo said at the DNC, like, look up these. He said, you think that this party is going to really overturn, you know what I'm saying, and go against the donors that have these high-rise seats, you know what I'm saying, at this convention. Right. You know what I mean? Do you really think that's how it goes? That's not what's going to happen. And that's why that clip went viral as it did, because he was inside of it. You know what I'm saying, with his brother and him being anchor at CNN, right? You know what I mean? So yeah, man. With that, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and close it out, man. I'm gonna go ahead and leave, man. You can see I'm tired.
Yeah.
It's been great chopping it up with you guys. And,
oh yeah.
And
peace.
I'll see y'all later, man. Peace.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I'm probably gonna call it a nightcap as well, gentlemen. I don't know if you guys are gonna stick around for a closing, or I'm probably gonna head out myself.
We can close out. Yeah, we can close out. We appreciate y'all coming to share and spend time with us. Glad we could have this fellowship, expanding the Freedmen's Collective. Maybe we hope to start doing some shows more frequently, especially during this political season. But I always say that, and it seems like it's always infrequent. So we'll try to do a better job of keeping things going at a more consistent rate. My brother Darvell, my brother Gerard, my brother Conspiracy Brother, my brother Ernest, who is in the comments. Let's read this comment before we go. She didn't answer any questions regarding her without. Oh, I already said that. Already said that.
One take gang.
Yeah, one take gang. I'm sorry, I attributed that to brother Ernest, and that was one take gang. But that's 100% accurate. But yeah, again, I am Conspiracy Brother. This is the Freedmen's Collective, also simulcasting on A Look Underneath with Conspiracy Brother. And we appreciate you. Let's see. Brother Ernest, peace, fellas. Peace to you all. Be blessed, be educated, and continue to fight. Peace out. Let me see if I can get this going. Right?